Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ballin In Da Boot. I am your host, Jace LeJeune, and we got first off, we have Darryl Felker, one of our beat writers here for Gridiron Football. Went to not only one but two high school football games this weekend, so got a pretty good taste of Louisiana high school football. Darryl, you saw some pretty good teams at it. How's your football weekend been going?
It was a really good weekend. So yeah, Friday night I got to see a really good high scoring game from both teams, two really high power offenses, and then last night I got to see Edna Karr and St. Aug, and that was just a game that was just a super hype game. So like it was my first time being in that stadium as well, and it was packed out. It was a
Mhm.
lot of team. It was a lot of fans from both sides that came out, and they both had really nice bands. You actually told me that that
Oh
was
yeah,
going to be something to look forward to,
yeah.
and yeah, they definitely. I haven't seen any bands like that this whole season so far from
Oh yeah.
both sides. So yeah,
It's
yeah,
different in
so
New Orleans, like
yeah.
that's just as entertaining as in itself as the actual game. I feel like, but yeah, you got to see some pretty good talented teams, and you got some doubleheader action this past Friday and Saturday, and we appreciate Daryl for going out and covering game on Saturday. So we really appreciate you doing that, Daryl. Now let's talk about it. First off, let's talk about your Friday game first, and
Okay.
that was Vermilion Catholic and Riverside. A lot of offensive star power on both teams. When we talk about Vermilion Catholic, John Dartez, Jonathan Dartez, a quarterback for Vermilion Catholic, and you look at Riverside, Dedrick Lassie, who I told you is like a Darren Sproles clone. It seems like, and but he's super fun to watch. Dale, those are probably two of the most fun players to watch in the state. I feel like in John Dartez and Dedrick Lassie, you saw him on Friday. And the big storyline here going into the game was that Vermilion Catholic played Riverside last year in the semifinals for a chance to go to the Superdome, and Riverside really handed it to them. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
blowout win for Riverside that got them to the Superdome, and revenge was on the mind of John Dartez going to the senior season, and it showed on Friday night. Got us through to what was a crazy, wild matchup between these two teams.
Yeah, it was a really good matchup. It was a home game for Riverside and Vermilion Catholic. Their side came out pretty deep as well, and as you said, it was a big matchup just because of the history from last year. So the game started off, and it seemed like how most of these games have been seeming. Honestly, seems like it's going to be a really competitive game, and it's back and forth. So the first two drives of the game, uh, the first drive of the game, Jonathan Dartes scored using his legs, and I was like, okay, because I've we've done the player nominations weekly, and I've seen his name a couple of times. I actually did a spotlight article on him from the player nominations, so I knew he was capable of putting up some numbers, but yeah, he came out first drive and used his legs, and from there they kind of took off on Riverside, and
Mhm.
next thing you know, they were up 21-0, and at this point, it was easy for Riverside to kind of just roll over. But like you
Mhm.
just said, they have Dedrick Lasty and a lot of other
Yeah.
really dynamic playmakers as well. And once that offense got chugging, they didn't slow up at all. But that 14-21 point lead that they went down in the beginning of the game, it really kind of it was just that gap that Vermilion Catholic needed, and because they weren't going to stop scoring. And Jonathan Dartez, he ended up totaling 7 touchdowns, five
Wow.
rushing, including 191-yard touchdown and two passing to his tight end Alan McClain. And so yeah, it was a great night for their offense, but the Riverside offense, it was a great night for them as well. While they started out slow and went down kind of big early, after that, yeah, it was no slow up of offense. So at half it was 28-14. They had gotten back into it a little bit, gotten a few stops, but yeah, eventually Vermilion Catholic, they just kept scoring, and Riverside, they just weren't able to catch up. But Dedrick Lasty, he had 2 touchdowns. He had one really nice play where he caught it. It was kind of like a screen pass, and it was somebody immediately in his face, and he hit one back juke, reverse field, and beat everyone out to the pylon. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what Jace was telling me about. Like just a super dynamic, just can make a play at any given moment. Yep.
Yeah.
So and their wide receiver as well,
Yeah.
Nehemiah Phillip, he
Mhm.
had 3 touchdowns, and he was really the number one receiver for their
Yeah.
team. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
he had a really big game. Even in a loss, he had a really good game. But like I said, that early hole that they were in,
Mhm.
you can't do that against the Vermilion
Yeah.
Catholic offense because they're
Right.
going to keep scoring and scoring. So
Yeah, that's what really made the difference in this game. I mean, like you said, Riverside eventually got the offense going, and when they got it going, they couldn't be stopped. But you already were down 21 points, and you can't put yourself in a 21-point hole when you're going against Jonathan D'Artes from Vermilion Catholic
yeah,
because I don't care how good of a defense you are, like getting 3 consecutive stops against that offense, that's
yeah,
not going to happen, and that proved to be the difference in this game.
yep, yeah. It was literally all the difference, honestly, because Riverside, they had a really good offense as well, and of course, I mean, they're kind of getting overshined by D'Artez's 7 touchdown
Mhm.
performance, but their offense was really good as well. And yeah, like you said, that early hole, it's almost impossible to ask your defense to get out there two or three times and ask them to stop that Vermilion Catholic offense. So yeah, and as you said earlier, that this game definitely was something that meant a lot to Vermilion Catholic. When in
Mhm.
my interview post game with Jonathan D'Artes,
Yeah.
he actually said this was one of the games that they had
Mhm.
scheduled because of that. Yeah, they were undefeated last season all the way up until the
Yeah.
semifinal,
Yeah.
and then like you said, Riverside just kind of puts it on them, and they hadn't really seen that all season. So yeah, so this was definitely a good team win. Everybody was feeling good about this.
Yeah,
So
it was personal, like
yeah,
number 1 seed last year with Vermilion Catholic looked like they were a favorite to go to the state championship game, and stopping them in the tracks is Riverside. Riverside now they go down to 2-2 on the season. Vermilion Catholic, just like last year, in the last couple of years, under Coach Prejean, hot start. They're 5-0 right now, and they're looking like they could be a number 1 seed again this year in a Division 4 select bracket at the end of the year. But they're looking really strong right now. You mentioned Jonathan D'Artes, 7 touchdowns. The final score was 49-34. So it shows you how much of a high scoring was. I'm not sure, even and as crazy as it is, I'm not sure if it still hit the over. Like if you set the game at like over under, I'm
yeah,
yeah, as high scoring as it was, I'm not sure if it still hit the over or not before the game, but it shows you how explosive these two teams were. You mentioned Darryl. You got a chance to talk to Jonathan D'Artes after the game. You already mentioned how personal it was and how great it was for them not to only win, but have that 7 touchdown performance too. Anything else that really stood out to you when you talked to John after the game?
he was just really happy that the defense was able to step up as well because that was going to be the biggest challenge for
Mhm.
them. As we know, the offense is always basically going to be able to put some points up, but with facing an offense like that, just a few stops can literally win you a game, and that's exactly what happened. They came out and started off really strong, and yeah, the Riverside offense, they made adjustments to open things up and end up pouring in some points, but that start of the game was everything that Vermilion Catholic needed. So he was really happy and really proud of the defense getting
Yeah.
helping get them that win.
And the crazy thing is, Daryl, we could see this game down the road too again. This could be a rematch in the playoffs, and depending on what side of the bracket they're on. But this could be a rematch moving forward. So that's going to be pretty shocking, and see that could happen. And you never know. This could be a rematch moving forward.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised because, like I said, both of these teams are really high power on offense, and yeah, if they can get some stops on whoever they're playing, they have a good chance of winning.
Yep, that was the first game we discussed. Once again, 49-34 Vermilion Catholic. They improved to 5-0 on the season, and they will look ahead to next week. A huge win for Coach Brock Prejean and Jonathan D'Artes and company. The Screaming Eagles are hooting and hollering right now on 5-0. Making a lot of noise. Now, let's talk about your next game, which was the game in high school football in Louisiana on Saturday. So it was a wild, wacky college football slate. So a lot going on the college football side. Now, it was a wild and wacky Catholic League Friday because like myself and talked to Grant a little bit as well, that it looks like we were hyping Rummel to be that second team behind Edna Karr in the Catholic League, and they lose to Brother Martin. And then we saw Jesuit getting hot the last couple of games. They lose. The Holy Cross has been struggling. So the Catholic League's been kind of weird. So going into this game, you're like, can it happen again? Can St. Aug beat Edna Karr and really turn the Catholic League on its head? Edna Karr going into this game, Darryl, like people are saying this is the best team in the state of Louisiana. A lot of people or it's really been a debate between them and Ruston right now as who is the best team in Louisiana. And you look at St. Aug now; they've always had all the talent in the world, but they're led by a new head coach and Robert Valdez, who's been a very successful head football coach, and a lot of people are excited about that hire, and he's doing a great job right now with only one loss going into this game. Have really a chance as a really good measuring stick for St. Aug to see how they measure up with Edna Karr. And Darryl, you were there. You're at the game between Edna Karr and St. Aug, and break it down. The bands you told us were really good, fun to watch. But how did the action go on the football field on Saturday?
Yeah, it was a really good atmosphere, as you said, a really big game. But on the actual field, in the car, they definitely lived up to what everyone has been saying about them. And like you said, a lot of the other teams, there was a lot of upsets this week. I actually saw Rummel last week, and
Mm-hmm.
then this week they ended up losing to
Yep.
Brother Martin. So yeah, so I think it's and St. Aug is a really good team as well. So I was really excited going into the game, and it while the final score was 34-13
Yeah.
in the car over St. Aug, but the score doesn't the score doesn't really show how
Mm,
close the game felt
right.
because it was a really close game even in yards. Like the St. Aug quarterback Vashawn Coolin,
Mm-hmm.
he had 254 passing yards and a touchdown and but he had two interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And the Karr quarterback, John Johnson, he had 250 passing yards, so about the same number, but he had two touchdowns and one interception. And he
Mm-hmm.
also had 11 carries for 100 yards. So he got things done. I was really pleased with how he played. The one interception was kind of early. It was in the first quarter or first half of the game, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken, at least. But so yeah, I mean, he kind of got that one mistake out the way early, but besides that, he was lights out, and that that offense is serious. They have a running back, Bryant Sanchez.
Yep.
He he's really he's
Yeah.
a really big player for them
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to get caught up in all the receiver talent that they have
Yep.
and just want to throw it every play. But when they got down to the red zone and they needed for sure points and they didn't want to risk throwing on the 1 yard line and yeah, like yeah. So we're just gonna turn around, hand it off to our running back, and he got the job done every time. He had 3 touchdowns total in the game, and he had 17 carries for 107. So a really good game overall, and that was kind of the difference. They were able to establish the run game and the
Mm,
pass game. So their offense was just buzzing completely. And the turnovers were really huge for St. Aug because they were able to move the ball. They had a pick right down right near the end zone. It was on fourth down, and they threw a pick, and they just weren't able to capitalize when they got down two score points.
yeah,
And that was all that they needed because that the Edna Karr defense is really good as well. So I mean, when you have those opportunities, when you do get down the field and you're in scoring positions, you have to capitalize on them, or yeah, you're gonna lose. So
yeah.
and that's what happened.
Absolutely. Darryl, now talking about in the car, you just mentioned it. They can throw the football. I mean, John Johnson, their quarterback, he's really good. He's one of the better in the quarterbacks I've seen watch and play. You already talked about the receiving talent. I mean, Teron Francis, who they actually nicknamed Man Child, and you saw that firsthand about why they call him that. You already mentioned about their running back as well. Defensively, I mean, they are solid. Their defensive line has two. They have an LSU commit and an Ole Miss commit. Their safety has an LSU commit. Now, seeing this team in person, Darryl, does Endicott have any flaw or any weakness when you look at them across the board? Like, I mean, is it like Superman? Do they have a kryptonite? Because it looks like they don't. I mean, this team looks almost unbeatable.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw last night, they don't have any huge holes. Now, I mean, of course they have lapses where
Mm-hmm.
they give up some they can give up some big plays sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the only way that you can kind of move on a defense like that. You're going to need those big plays to kind of propel you down the field because you're not going to be able to just march and get first down after first down after first down on a defense like that. So, yeah, I mean, looking for a hole, I didn't see one on offense. Like I said, they were very complete on offense and defense. They made they yeah, they made stops when it was needed. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very dominant win. So it was a good game from both sides. And St. Aug, like I said, their quarterback, he actually had more passing yards than John Johnson, but
Right.
just not being able to capitalize and get into the end zone. And they actually had kind of a dual quarterback system going as
Mm-hmm.
well. They had a freshman quarterback as well. His name was JL Noble, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he was a freshman, and he didn't do much throwing. They left the throwing to Coolin, but
Yeah.
he was very electric with his legs. So he actually got their first touchdown of the game, and they ended up not getting another touchdown until late in the fourth quarter.
Right. Right.
So yeah, so I mean, he was really, and he that wasn't his only play out there as well. They would sub him in and out for the starting QB and just allow him to get in and try to
Mhm.
provide a spark for the offense, which he did a few times. So
Yeah.
I definitely think, yeah, I think they have something. And I mean, when you're going up against Edna Karr, it's like we said, who is looked at as the best team in the state. Yeah, I mean, you can't really hold your head on a performance like that.
Right. I mean, early on it was tied at 7. So I mean, they
Yeah.
were out there early on, and it looked like it was gonna be a really good game. But like you said, it was I believe 27 unanswered points by in the car until St. Aug scored late. But now let's talk about. I mean, huge big win for in the car and Bryce Brown and this whole in the car football team, and they're looking right now. I mean, right now in the state, it looks like Ruston and then the Cars 1A and 1B in the state of Louisiana right now. And then in the Catholic League, it looks like and the car right now is head over heels above everybody else right now in the Catholic League. But Now St. Aug, there is a battle right now between who is that second team because we don't know who that second team is. We thought it was Rommel. They lose to
Mhm.
Brother Martin. I mean, Brother Martin lost to Jesuit. Like they're just all beating each other up right now for that second spot. Now, how did you think St. Aug fared throughout the game against Edna Karr? I even told Grant I think this game is more about St. Aug than it is about Edna Karr because we all know how good Edna Karr is. We know how good they are. But St. Aug, it was a question. Okay, where are they at now with a new head coach and Robert Valdez with where they're at? Um, Tell me how you think they fared like on the field with Edna Karr.
I think that they weren't far behind Edna Karr. I will say that, and like I said, the score doesn't really tell the story, and even just the 27 unanswered points, their their defense played really well. Two of Carr's touchdowns were to wide receiver Dejon Smith, and both of the touchdowns were 50 yards plus. So it wasn't like they were necessarily marching on St. Aug either, but they were able to make huge plays for touchdowns, and yeah, they were able to put points up, and that was something that St. Aug wasn't able to do. But I do think with even with another matchup versus Edna Karr, I think that this game will help them out a lot,
Mhm.
and because they've kind of seen the best of the best, as we said. So now everybody else, because they were able to move the ball on Edna Karr,
Mhm.
on Edna Karr's defense. So I think that just carrying over what they did this game and just focusing on executing down near the goal line, because that was the biggest thing. Because Edna Karr, they leaned on their running back heavy. They didn't do when they got down inside the 20-yard line. It was Brian Sanchez time, and it worked for him. He had 3 touchdowns, and it
Yep.
was huge for them because it took a load off of trying to force a pass or just trying to force something into the end zone. So if if St. Aug can get their running game buzzing like that, or just uh just be able to execute down
Mhm.
near the end zone, I think that they can definitely stick with Edna Karr and even maybe even pull out a win if their defense is able to generate a few more stops.
Well, and the car is not only talented, they're I mean well balanced, they're well coached, and when you mix in talent with coaching, yeah, that's a really tough combination to beat. But Endicott able to improve to 5-0 on the season after a dominant win over St. All next week. That it gets tricky, right? I mean, a little bit.
Hmm.
We got Brother Martin who defeated what we all thought was the second best team in the Catholic League and Rummel, and they have them next week. So I mean, they were able to pull off the upset. We'll see how the car handles that, and then also say all they move to 3-2. So we'll see how they do moving forward as well. Darryl doing an excellent job. Keep up the good work. And last question before I let you go is hopefully you enjoyed the Rock. The pregame that they come into
Ah,
with
yeah,
the little dance they do coming
yeah.
out from the end zone. I think that's one of the coolest entrances in all of Louisiana high school football. I was wondering if you got a chance to enjoy that before the game.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely it was super cool, and it was even better because I wasn't expecting it. Like I haven't seen it, so the band was playing, and then they hit the horns, and they just kind of
Yeah,
hit the
yeah.
lean, and I was like, oh yeah, so yeah, and then it brought that energy into the stadium because
Uh-huh.
it was a really packed out game, and it was a really it was a really energetic live game.
Yeah.
So just that bringing that kind of intro into the atmosphere, yeah, it was super cool. I loved it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The Rock's always really cool. It never gets old for me. It's awesome seeing that. So, Daryl, hope you enjoyed the football. You got some 2 games this week. Keep up the good work, man. And we'll talk next week on Ball in the Boot about the high school games that you're covering next week.
All right. Thank you, Jace. Looking forward to it.
Hello, everyone. This is Jace LeJeune once again from Ball in the Boot. a Gridiron Football show, and making his Ballin In Da Boot debut with us is one of our writers, Zach Wade, one of our beat writers, Zach Wade. So, Zach, thanks for joining in. This is your first time, so I know you're a rookie to all this, but welcome. And Zach, we're going to talk about some high school football. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Jace. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good. It was a wild and crazy college football weekend. I can tell you that. A
It
lot of
really was.
upsets, and it's been a lot going on. So we actually will talk. We'll have a breakdown about all that, all the wild, crazy upsets in our college football top 21, 25 roundup, which will be on our website. So y'all get to see about which teams survived this weekend, basically, which was a crazy weekend in college football. But Zach, we're going to talk some high school football. And the game that you're at for the first time covering Gridiron Football for us was a pretty good Baton Rouge matchup. Denham Springs is a 5A program that's expecting to have a bounce back year. Brett Beard's done a good job with his program at Denham Springs. Their quarterback, Jerry Horn, is actually one of our quarterbacks for the Gridiron Football Bowl game. And they're doing pretty good this year, but they got a pretty tough task in Southern Lab. Southern Lab has won two of the last three Division IV state championships in high school football for Louisiana. Their quarterback was actually a defending player of the week, Gridiron Football Player of the Week as well, in Jerry Botley. So it was an interesting performance, but it was a statement this Friday by Denham Springs. So Zach, tell us a little bit about that game.
I mean, Denham Springs, they really came out and they did not let their foot off the gas. I mean, they came out and scored on their first two drives, and they really just didn't slow down after that. I mean, Jerry Horn, he is an incredible athlete. I mean, he really commands the field. He, I mean, his football IQ is just seeing it live and seeing it happen is just something incredible. I mean, he is throwing to all of his receivers. He really just utilizes everyone out there. And even when you can feel like the pocket collapsing, he can really use his feet and make some great plays.
Oh yeah, he's a good one. I feel like he's a really underrated quarterback in the state of Louisiana, which are some good quarterbacks. And Jerry, like Zach said, I said as well, he is Jerry Horn is one of our Gridiron Football All American Bowl game quarterbacks. So for any Denham Springs fans, I want to see Jerry after the season. Well, he get one more chance to shine as a Denham Springs Yellow Jacket at a Gridiron Football All American Bowl game, but. Uh, Maybe not too surprising, Zach, that Denham Springs was able to win this football game because, after all, there are a 5A team. Southern Lab is a 1A team, but maybe by the margin was really surprising because even though that's a 1A team, that's still one of the best 1A teams in all of the state of Louisiana. So, what made the difference for Denham Springs? I know Jerry played really well, but what are some other factors that allowed him to play well on Friday?
I just think, I mean, the defense really just made stops whenever they really needed to. There wasn't really ever a time where the defense was really had their back up against the wall ever against Southern Lab. I mean, there was a few times where they had a few big plays, and one big play led to a Southern Lab touchdown. But other than those two plays, there was really nothing. There was really nothing clicking on that Southern Lab offense that can really, you know, get through that Denham Springs defense, and it was really incredible to watch. They were making incredible plays. They were stopping them at the line. The run game for Southern Lab just wasn't there, and it seemed like they were really focused on that the QB sneak, making sure that he didn't get outside that pocket because they were really good about making sure he did not get any rushing yards whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean Jerry Botley is a talented quarterback as well. We just mentioned Gridiron Football Player of the Week this past week, so he actually was our Player of the Week last week. But he is a dual threat quarterback. He can throw it, he can run it. So hey, it's like hey, stop the bleeding on one side, and it looks like Dem Springs decide hey, we're going to force him to throw the football.
Yeah, and they tried to throw the football, man, but they just couldn't get open or couldn't hang on to the ball really. That was I seemed like that was most of their problems was just dropping easy passes that should have been caught or really sometimes Jerry Bolley would just underthrow players that were wide open.
Hmm.
And but other than that, I mean, that the offense just really seemed to struggle just with everything. They just couldn't seem to get anything going.
Yeah, it looked like it was a game early on. I mean, Jerry Horn connected with Deshaun Goldman for a big play for a touchdown. I mean, Sun Live responded to. Looked like it was going to be maybe a back and forth game early on with Botley hitting up to Anthony Weatherspoon as well. But like you mentioned, Sun Lab was struggling to run the football, but it looks like Denham Springs, even though Jerry Horn had a really good game, obviously, it looks like they were able to run the ball too with Brenton Paul.
Yeah, he was really well. He was able to get down the field a couple times, make a bunch of big through breakthrough runs. Able to convert a lot on third downs with him. It was really fun watching him play. He's a really aggressive runner. Hard to get him down, but he found the end zone a few times that night.
Yeah, and the score at halftime was 28-12. I know Sun Lab connected on two deep throws. I know Keenan Butler scored the other touchdown for Southern Lab. So you're going to halftime. You're thinking, okay, 28-12. Yeah, I mean, you're still down by two possessions, but it's a two possession ball game. I mean, you saw how quick Southern Lab can
Yeah,
score. So, but it seems like Denham Springs you know, really
they
put that down because they held them. It looks like they shut them out in the second half.
it wasn't a very eventful second half for both teams. I think late in the fourth quarter was the very next touchdown that was scored, but the second half was very uneventful for both offenses. It was a very defensive half, but yeah, both defenses the second half were really shining. I think if Southern Labs defense would have played like they did in that second half, I think they would have had a good shot at maybe a little maybe held it a little bit closer, or maybe even gain the lead at some point. But they I mean, Southern Lab in the second half, their defense really showed up, but I think it was just a little too late for them to do anything. And on offense, both teams really just struggled.
Hmm.
I don't know what happened, but they just couldn't make any passes. They couldn't get down the field, um, especially in that third quarter. The third quarter was tough. No one can make any headway in the and
Hmm.
getting yards of possession and gaining yards. It was just, and then finally in the early of the fourth quarter, they finally get a field goal, and then the very next play, they force a Southern Lab 3 and out and score. So
Yeah, it was a tale of two halves, right? I mean, Denham
yeah,
Springs offense really got it done in the first half, scoring 28 points, and pretty much went on cruise control, and their defense was able to shut out Southern Lab in the second half. So overall, well-rounded performance by Brett Beard, by Denham Springs. Big win for the Yellow Jackets, and really the Yellow Jackets are a sleeper team we got to start talking about because I know they improved the 4-1 on the season. So I mean, this Yellow Jackets team is looking pretty good right now. They're kind of gaining their stride.
yeah. I mean, if you watching the way they played on this Friday, you would not think that they have lost a game ever. They looked like they were a well-oiled machine. I mean, everyone was working on the same page, and it was really incredible to watch.
Yeah, their one loss on the year was against a Central football team that is really good, undefeated
Yeah.
right now. They've been pretty much dominating a lot of their opponents. So we're all eyeing that big district game in a couple weeks between Central and Catholic. That should be a really good one. But overall impressions, final thoughts. You had a chance to talk to Coach Beard or any of the players or anybody like that after the game.
I got a chance to talk to Jerry.
Okay, yep.
Jerry.
What did Jerry Horn have to say about the game?
And so I kind of asked him, how do you go through your progressions? You know, like how do you go through your progressions, and what kind of clock do you have that says, I think it's time for me to just get out there and go? And he said, I just go through my regular progressions. I look for my guys to be open, but it's really just instincts on how and when he's feeling like he needs to get out of there. And so he did say does like to stay in the pocket for as long as he can. But when he sees that it's time to go, he can really make a play on his feet. So
Yeah. Yeah, he's a savvy. He's slippery out there. I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't think. I mean, we all know Jerry can throw the football, but he's a deceptive athlete. He can run when he needs to and extend plays. So you saw a little bit of that, but big win for Denham Springs and for Southern Lab. I believe that was their first loss of the season too. So interesting to see how this Southern Lab football team can respond to some adversity moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed watching the game. It was a fun game to watch, and I hope to see more of Denham Springs and see what all they can accomplish this year.
Absolutely, Zach. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm Ballin In Da Boot. Good job. Keep up the good work, and we'll discuss what game you go to next week here on
Awesome.
Boot.
I can't wait for it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Welcome, guys, to another segment of Ballin In Da Boot. I'm your host, Jace LeJeune, alongside Isharay Jones. Isharay, I know you've been making your rounds, doing some pretty good Louisiana high school football. And Isharay, we're going to talk about the game that you went to on Friday. If you haven't got a chance, you can actually go to our YouTube channel. You can actually go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com, to read more about the games that Isharay and all of our riders have gone to on Thursdays, Fridays, and even Saturdays. Darryl actually went to a high school game on Saturdays. He had in the car and in St. Aug on Saturday. So yeah, make sure to check out all of our content at gridironfootballusa.com. Isharay, you went to a big game between two undefeated teams. Like, this was a big game on paper. Lutcher was coming in. The big storyline with this one is Lutcher with their stingy defense. Rashad Sterling is a Houston commit. They've been really good defensively over the last 2 years under Coach Dwayne Jenkins. And on the other side, Vandebilt Catholic, they're undefeated. They got a really good running back in Jalen Coleman. And this is a battle of, who's going to win. Is it going to be the defense? Is it going to be the offense? And like a lot of times in these games, it's the defense that stood up. And Lutcher had a statement on Friday night. So I should tell us a little bit more about it.
Yes, sir. I think the big story about the game is definitely Lutcher's defense. I checked before with the stats. They're only allowing 4.5 points per game through all games throughout the season. And that defense was crazy. Stop after stop after stop, continuously putting Lutcher's offense in good field position every single time to score.
Yeah, I mean, the defense really shut down Jalen Coleman. He wasn't really much of a factor, talking to you about before the game, and he is a talented running back in a state where it seems like every team across the state, they got a really talented running back. It just seems like it's that type of year. But they were able to shut him down for the most part, like you mentioned, with Rashad Sterling and company. But Lutcher's offense also had a pretty efficient game too, with Zach Jenkins at quarterback, and obviously that probably the MVP of the game, Trenton Cheney, for Lutcher
So,
as well. So tell us a little bit about their performances.
so Trent Cheney, he's a good dual threat running back. He also play receiver, and he's really shifty and elusive. He had 3 touchdowns for them. And he was just really good, just dominating on the runs, dominating on the short passes. He was run after catch, run after contact every time. And Zach Jenkins, he set the tone at quarterback. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, or 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. I'm sorry. And he really held it down for that offense. He was the anchor for them.
Yeah, and that's what you need. I mean, Lutcher has been a state championship program. They won the state championship just 2 years ago.
So,
Actually, a Gridiron Football Player of the Year 2 years ago was Dewanye Winfield. Lunch is what they called him. He was a quarterback at Lutcher. Set all kinds of records. Was a great player. Now is playing quarterback for the Raging Cajuns. So,
wow.
really, really good player for them. Now, really Dwayne Jenkins' son Zach is a quarterback for him, and this is a team we know about how good they were defensively, but just overall, I mean, from what you're able to see in that division, I believe they're in that Division II non-select bracket for the playoffs at the end of the year. But do you think that the Lutcher Bulldogs can be in contention after seeing that performance for maybe 2 state championships in 3 years?
100%, especially if that defense is playing like that, only letting up 18 points in 4 games. 100% they could be a contention against anybody in Louisiana.
Who are some guys that impressed you? I mean, obviously we talked about three of those names, right? And Zach, we talked about Trenton Cheney. Trenton Cheney had 3 touchdowns, was really the main guy for them. Rashad
So
Throne because he's committed to Houston. But who are some other guys that really impressed you on Friday night?
There's a young running back. His name is Vermilion Joseph. Their coach pretty adamant about him being up and coming. He's been doing really well, and as he's been getting better, they've been trusting Trent Cheney to be more of a receiver. So him emerging is really good for them. They have Terry Snowden too on the defense and
Yep.
Corey Ruiz. They just have a whole bunch of key players that just all play their roles the right way. They just all make it just they all mesh together really well.
What do you think was a problem? I mean, I know Lutcher's defense is really tough. You talk about Terry Snow, and he's another really good player for this Lutcher team too. But nothing really much going. I mean, trying to get Jalen Coleman in the game. They just never were able to do that. I mean, this was a really good Vandebilt Catholic team that came in undefeated. So, what was the problem? How was Lutcher able to shut a running back like him that's been really productive over his career, shut him down like that?
I think it starts with the offensive and defensive line, honestly. Coach had told me about Parquet and Rashad Sterling and Marcus Gibson being on their offensive line. They just have a whole bunch of big boys on both sides of the line. They're just all playing their roles well. And that's really where it gets started because Vanderbilt, they rely on their run so much and they was all getting stuff the whole game. They had to rely on the passing and they weren't really ready for that day.
Yeah, it's hard to be one dimensional, right? And that's what Lutcher was trying to do. They looked like they had a really good game plan, and I love how in football nowadays everyone wants to spread it out, throw it all over the yard, but at the end of the day, it still goes down to the line of scrimmage. Can you block? Can you stop
Always.
the run? And that's what Lutcher did to really dominate that game.
So
So also you got a chance to talk to, I believe, Coach Jenkins, right, after the game. So what did Coach say? I mean, obviously he was probably thrilled about the performance, but you know how head coaches are. There's always something to improve on. They're never satisfied. But huge win to improve and continue their undefeated season at 4-0. But what did Coach Jenkins say after the game?
And so Coach Jenkins, he was big on the potential that the offense showed because the offense, they were scoring almost every single drive, but they had penalties that were messing them up. And he really wants to get them fixed over this next short week where they play on Thursday.
Mhm.
He's big on that, but he's really big on the defense too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, it looks like they play next week. South Terrebonne.
Yes,
So I
sir.
know
South Terrebonne.
they're 3-2. Vanderbilt Catholic. They look to get back on track after their first loss of the season, as they will host South Lafourche, and they've
Yes, sir.
had a tough start to the season too. I believe 1-4 on the
Yes, sir.
year.
1-5, I believe.
Five,
Yes, sir.
1-5. So, yeah, we'll see what's coming up for Lutcher. Big win. They weren't able to. I think they were supposed to play. I think St. Charles Catholic earlier in the year, and that was the Hurricane week, and I think they lost that game and didn't get a chance to play that game. So that's why they're 4-0 instead of 5-0. But yeah, they're looking pretty good right now behind their defense, their running game, and they're looking right now. They're pretty hot for a state championship. Now, Isharay, are there any final thoughts about this game? Just maybe you talked about the game and some of the star players and some of the plays and everything, but what was it like going to Lutcher? I mean, they take football pretty seriously over
Yes,
there, right?
sir.
They're tailgating pretty early. There's a nice field. They got a live mascot. They got a bulldog
Oh,
mascot.
yes, sir.
So what was just the atmosphere like on Friday?
I really enjoyed it over there. It's not really a big city, but I can enjoy that. And you can see the football culture as you see the state championship signs. Well,
Mhm.
I don't know how much state championships, but the most recent one was in 2022. Like that's just their culture, honestly. It's just a really good team and defense wins championships, and
Yeah.
that's the culture that they set over there.
Yeah, Dwayne Jenkins done an excellent job over there, and they've won a lot of state championships in the 2000s. You probably heard of him. He was a pretty good player back in his day. Jarvis Landry.
Yes, sir.
Jarvis Landry
Found
played.
out he was from there after the game. I was like, that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
Tim Detillier was a coaching legend over there. Frank Monica coached there, so it's a winning program and a state championship program. So you got to see that on Friday night, and Dwayne Jenkins is continuing to do that at Lutcher. So great job, Isharay. Keep up the good work, and I guess next week we'll see. We'll talk about the next game that you're covering next week for Gridiron Football on Ballin In Da
Yes,
Boot.
sir. Yes, sir.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another segment of Ballin In Da Boot. I'm Jace LeJeune, your host here from Gridiron Football, and I'm with one of our lead beat writers, Allison, who's not only a high school writer for us, but he's also covering the Southern Jaguars. And Yeah, per request by Alex, we're not going to go too in depth with the Southern game for obvious reasons. It was a rough night on the bluff for sure for Southern, but I was able to witness this team firsthand too against LSU. And even though LSU won the game, the LSU fans were not feeling great about LSU either after playing Nicholls State. So Nicholls is definitely a really good football team. We definitely can agree on that. But Nicholls was able to defeat Southern 51-7 final score, and really the 7 points came late. For most of the time, it was 50. I mean, it was a shutout for Nicholls, but you got to see Nicholls firsthand. Yeah, tell me how good the Colonels are, because we want to cover Nicholls State as well as Louisiana College, in-state college too, here on Ballin In Da Boot, and want to recognize everything that's going on in football in Louisiana. So Nicholls State looking like a very strong contender right now to win the Southland Conference.
Yeah, one of the things that I did want to briefly touch on here, because of the uniqueness of this game, that it's not just a Southern game, it's also a Nicholls game, and Nicholls is very close. This isn't just some nameless, faceless opponent from 4 hours away and nobody cares about. A lot of people, they're tuning in for Southern, but they also care about Nicholls. One of the things I found interesting, I think a lot of people, myself included, had seen Nicholls in the LSU game, and they went, okay, Nicholls is a good FCS team. They might make the playoff this year, contender for the Southern Conference, all that. They're actually 1-3 going into this game. So they haven't had a great start to the season, although some of those were like higher tier opponents, so some of it makes sense. And they very well might still be a contender, but just record wise, there were concerns. And so this is a really good win for Nicholls. And I think one of the interesting things, one of the things Nicholls can hang their hat on in this game is the reputation that they had going into the game did not fit the profile of the team on the field. Everyone going into this game was Colin Guggenheim, rushing attack. It was the Nicholls State fighting Guggenheims against LSU.
It was.
That gave LSU a real scare. And Guggenheim got his in this game. Like, don't get me wrong. 16 carries, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns is a solid stat line. But that's also not a stat line that makes you go, oh yeah, that team won 51-7.
Right.
No, actually, it was everyone. It was a complete domination on every aspect of the field. And the thing that was most surprising, I think, equally for both Nicholls and Southern, was how dominant the passing attack was. There was not a lot of volume, but Pat McQuaid finished with like 180 passing yards on like 18 attempts, but with 4 touchdowns. And he had no interceptions. The backup came in later through a pick, but he was 4 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. Really efficient day, and they looked fantastic. Of course, the flip side of that, and the main thing to touch on, is that Southern looked terrible. There's no other word to use.
Right.
And Southern, I think, expected Nicholls to come out with a rushing attack and to get some, even though Southern's defense is pretty vaunted and really good. That's Nicholls' strength. You're going to allow some yards on the ground. That in a vacuum isn't that concerning. The concerning part of that is the fact that Southern had some really, really bad film in this game when it comes to tackling. Really concerning. And it wasn't all Guggenheim. It's not super clear who the running back was that was the number 2 guy, because the roster versus what's listed in the stats don't equate. But number 22 for Nicholls, there are a couple of really embarrassing plays in terms of attempting to tackle him. So the fact that it looked like that is a problem, but the fact that Nicholls got some yards through the ground isn't that concerning. The concerning part was how successful Nicholls was through the air. And the secondary, again, some embarrassingly bad reps where there were some contested catches, but there were also a few plays where it looked like they were playing on air. And it was just a team that looked so defeated by the end of the first quarter, and understandably so. The big takeaway, the big thing about this game, was how badly dominated Southern was in the first 17 minutes of this game. In the first 14 drives of the game, Nicholls outscored Southern 31-0. And out of all of those drives, only one total play between either team, had a snap taken inside Nicholls' 40-yard line.
Wow. That's insane. That's insane. Pure domination.
Absolute field position domination. And the defense got a couple of stops in there. There were 5 scoring drives in 7 possessions for Nicholls, but it felt like they had no room to maneuver. And when they did have any room, there was a mistake. There was a missed tackle, a couple of missed tackles, a blown assignment, and the defense looked uncharacteristically bad. And it didn't help that the offense it was their worst performance of the season. They didn't have a first down until they were already trailing 31-0. It was 3-and-out, fumble, short fields all around, a terrible punt, a punt that went sideways that gave Nicholls a short field. It was bad. It was all around a terrible performance. The only thing there are 2 things that Southern can kind of hang their head on with this game and
There's a shining light somewhere at the end of the tunnel, right?
Shining light. The first is the fact that this wasn't a conference game. Southern, I think there's been a pretty sour taste in a lot of Southern fans' mouths about this season so far. They're 2-3 after all, but they're 1-0 in conference. Their conference record is still 1-0, which means they still have everything to play for. And if you get your worst performance of the season out of the way, out of conference, there's still a lot that can happen. The other thing is that the team, by and large, there were some exceptions, but the team as a whole didn't give up. The game was well in hand by the time the touchdown happened, but the touchdown happened with 3 minutes left to go in the game. Right. Southern had some pride in not getting completely blanked on the scoreboard. And, it doesn't affect the outcome of this game, but I think that does tell you something about the character of the locker room and the team as a whole. And Coach Graves talked about that after the game in the press conference. That was something that he was really proud of, that the team, regardless of the outcome, regardless of how bad it looked, still was willing to fight to the end. But everyone looked pretty bad throughout the game. The one final thing to note is that, yet again, we didn't have one quarterback play the entire game.
Of course, yeah. The carousel continues right now for Southern, the quarterback position.
Yes. It was Ballin in the first half, and for the majority of the second half, Jalen Woods, the third-string quarterback, of course, because ZT Set is hurt, played the second half. It wasn't clear if it was for wanting to get some kind of a spark, wanting to get more looks, or just backups in garbage time. Yeah. The line gets kind of blurred when you have a weird depth chart like that. Right. He looked okay considering the situation. We do have, I think, one of the funnier plays I do want to briefly touch on before we kind of wrap this up and go on to the much more exciting game to talk about.
Yes.
But I actually posted this on Twitter earlier today that there's one play that completely encapsulates the whole game. Ballin was in for a couple of plays in the fourth quarter, already down 51-0. And on third and goal, he throws to Kendrick Grimes, hits him perfectly, bounces right off his helmet.
Jeez.
I'm like, yep, that's the game.
Yeah, that pretty much caps it up. Pretty much.
Really funny play, but yeah, just a game everyone wants to forget. Move on. They take on Texas Southern next week, and hopefully they'll look better than they did here. Because, of course, that's a conference game, and they're going to have to look better if they want to compete in this conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to have to ramp it up for sure. Not a lot of stuff. I mean, the good thing is, Alex, I guess, is you can't play worse.
No.
You just played. So hopefully the Jaguars get back on track and improve next week. And now, Alex, let's talk about the game that everybody wants to talk about. In a way, I kind of compared it almost as a high school version of LSU Alabama, when LSU was able to finally get that gorilla off their back and finally beat Alabama. This kind of reminds me of it a little bit. In fact, it was actually a similar type of score as that 19 game. But St. Edmund Opelousas Catholic, this has always been a game for the district over the last decade, and really opportunity here. I mean, St. Edmund has been putting up a lot of points on the board this season. So has Opelousas Catholic. They've been putting a lot of points on the scoreboard this year. So par for the course. Defensive coordinators look away. This is not a game you don't want to watch, but entertaining game. One of the best high school games that any of us have covered this fall. So Alex. And I don't know how you're going to wrap this up in a couple minutes, but where'd you even start with this one? Because it was
I've only got so much time. I wish that I could tell this story without spoiling the outcome beforehand.
Right.
Because it is a game that is that good that I wish was on national television. Like, it was a story that was that good. My opinion, early candidate for game of the year in the state of Louisiana in high school football.
Yeah.
Yes, eerily similar to that 2019 LSU Bama game. Similar final score. St. Edmund won 46-42 here on the road at their their white whale. Opelousas Catholic, and oftentimes these games weren't competitive. St. Edmund had lost 8 in a row, the same number as LSU had lost to Alabama. St. Edmund hadn't won in 11 years. These games were not competitive, almost ever. And St. Edmund is rolling in with what feels like their best team in a while. They've had some good teams. But they weren't just crowbarring people left and right like they are this year. So it was a battle of the unbeatens, probably for the district. 4-0 versus 4-0, two teams that mostly hadn't seen much competition going into this. So it's like this heavyweight battle that we got to see, and it absolutely did not disappoint. The one thing I want to get out of the way real quick before we talk about all of the offensive explosions is that even though the final score indicates a game where the defenses just didn't, like you said, defensive coordinators look away, there's more to it than that. There were a few plays that were really good, and of course the final play of the game was a defensive play. But these were kids. These are two 1A schools.
Yeah.
A lot of the best players for both teams are playing both sides.
Yep. You're right.
And so, you just go run a 70-yard touchdown, and then you're asked to go play cornerback, and it's kind of tough. So I think there was a certain amount of that impacted the final score of this game, especially early on, where it was just every single play, touchdown, and you blink, and we're already covering the over of like an Iowa football game. 8 minutes into the game. So that is what this game was. It was I stand up, I'm on the sideline, and Opelousas Catholic scores a touchdown off of like a 70-yard pass. Cross Gillen, playing quarterback for Opelousas Catholic, balled out 300 passing yards in the first half.
Unbelievable.
Multiple passing touchdowns, unstoppable. The Opelousas Catholic skill position players, him, Maurice Marcel, and Rowan Bergeron, and Hayden Jennings. There's another wide receiver. I'm slipping. Tizeno, Roger Tizeno. That group looked phenomenal today. They looked unstoppable. St. Ed's didn't have the Cats, and I'll talk about St. Ed's skill position players themselves in a second. Because they were really good too, but they didn't have the Cats from just a raw speed perspective to keep up with these guys.
Right.
The trade-off is that St. Edmund dominated in the trenches. Their offensive line, and I'll talk about this. Maybe we'll talk about them in Player of the Week. We'll talk about this game.
We might have 10 candidates here from what it sounded like, Alex, for Player of the Week from both teams.
We will at least talk about this game once later this week in Player of the Week. We might talk about it a couple of times. Because the St. Edmund offensive line was unbelievable. And it wasn't just one player. Kane West, their starting quarterback, had a couple of phenomenal things about his performance, but largely a kind of pedestrian stat line. He only completed 3 passes to a pair of wide receivers in Seth Oquin and Blake Moran that are really good and were getting open, but there's some accuracy things, but he led the team. Had like 76 rushing yards.
He's a player. He's
a player. He's a leader.
Right. High school player, leader for the team.
Yes. 76 rushing yards. The running back, Henry Summerlin, 250 rushing yards and a touchdown. The single most impressive play of the game was his rushing touchdown. That was like 60 yards. A crazy play, broke a bunch of tackles, looked like Ashton Genty out there. It was great. So the stars were great, but there was no one specific player for St. Edmund that dominated it in the way a specific player did for Opelousas Catholic, which I'll talk about in a second. So to me, the star of this game was the offensive line because the final score was 46-42. Both teams scored 6 touchdowns, but St. Edmund doesn't have a kicker. So the difference in the game was the fact that St. Edmund had to go for 2 6 times in this game. They called honestly what looked like the same exact play 6 times in a row and got it 5 of those 6 times.
Yep, get the ball to Kane West, and
it was you line up. I don't know the exact wide receiver formation, but it was Kane West running back to his right, fullback in front of the running back, snap it to him, keeper to the right.
Yeah,
every single time it felt like
quarterback power. It seemed like
quarterback power. You couldn't stop it. It was basically Coach Shiver just saying my O line's better than your D line.
Yep.
And on 2-point tries and on the goal line, because Kane West had 76 rushing yards, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns. They were all goal line carries. So every time they got on the goal line, they were like, "This is what's going to happen," and you can't do anything about it.
And Coach Shiver texted me a picture of Kane working out, a little short video. It was a hype video for him, and the first thing was Kane West working out. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't think I want to tackle Kane West. I mean, he's pretty bowled up and a tough runner, and you can see that obviously on Friday.
Absolutely, and Kane was great, and you don't have plays like that. You don't have that level of consistency as a runner without him being great. But to me, the story was the O-line for St. Edmund.
Yeah,
and they were the stars of the show. Whether it was Kane West, Summerlin, whoever was carrying the ball, they were moving the ball down the field. Okay, a little bit about the game kind of from a flow perspective. Like I said, first half, it was basically matching scores. 7-0, 7-6, 14-6, 14-14, 22-14, yada, yada, yada. St. Edmund is leading 30-28 at half.
I was already in the fourth quarter of my game by the time you were tweeting out the halftimes. I was like, man, they're still at halftime. We're already in the fourth quarter of the game I'm at. So
in this game felt like you got to halftime and you felt emotionally exhausted because OC's down by 2 points and they're launching these Hail Marys to try to score at the end. And St. Edmund, barely breaks them up, gets a pick, all that sort of stuff. And you're like, okay, that felt like the end of the football game. And it was a foreshadowing of the end of the football game. But the score was 30-28 at halftime. And you're like, we're going to play another 24 minutes of this?
Yes.
Oh, man. My phone died before the end of the game recording.
I bet. I mean, it's a lot. That's a lot. You're active. I mean, I got to say that. I mean, that's a lot to keep up on X about live tweeting this game. That's for sure.
So in the first half, they couldn't put together drives. Neither offense could. This is part of the reason that I'm talking about the defenses being better than we expected. Because every drive was either a 2-play touchdown or a 3-and-out. Nothing in between. Nobody could put together a drive. But Cross Gillen, the quarterback for OC, was balling out 300 passing yards. 200 of those passing yards were to Rowan Bergeron on 4 catches.
Wow.
And it was just that was the game. St. Edmund rushing the ball, a couple of bomb passes, and the OC passing attack being elite.
Being a quick score offense, right.
The second half comes, and the script of the game completely flips. Okay. St. Edmund does not put together an offensive touchdown for the first quarter and a half of the second half.
Okay.
They can't move the ball consistently. Whatever adjustments that OC made in the second half, they were able to make. The problem is that early in the third quarter, Cross Gillen goes down with a foot injury and is knocked out of the game. So now OC can't move the ball either.
Yeah.
Who comes in at quarterback? Rowan Bergeron.
Bergeron does, yep.
The guy that already has 200 receiving yards in this game.
Put him at quarterback. I mean, that's what you got to do. Put your best, and especially 1A. I mean, just whoever the best athlete, you got to get him the ball.
And he put on the cape. He was Superman. This game felt like if they were going to win this game, and it felt like they were going to win this game for a long time, even though they were trailing for most of the game, it was going to be because of him. And they slowly creep back up. So early in the third quarter, before the injury happens, Wyatt Dubois.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I almost gave a Yankee quote there. I apologize. Dubois. Can't believe me. Anyway, Wyatt Dubois has this sensational punt return that I miss on camera because what happens is the ball drops and it looks like it's going to get down. And I'm like, okay, I can just stop the recording. And then I turn around and he picks it up and he's running it back the other way, 70 yards for a touchdown. What happened? So unbelievable play. Unfortunately, I don't have the highlight for it. Maybe you can put it on it. That's Ed's only touchdown for the third quarter. So they're up 38-28.
Okay.
When Crosskillen goes down, and Rowan Bergeron, I was about to mix up with Chance Babineau because these are some similar stat lines.
Yeah.
Rowan Bergeron comes out there, has to play quarterback, and looks great. He's not the consistent passer that Crosskillen was.
Right.
He finished 4 for 11 for like 70 passing yards, but he got enough. He got a couple of big plays through the air.
Mm-hmm.
The first inflection point of the game, it's 4th and 2 late in the third quarter, and St. Edmund is up 38-28 on like the 40-yard line, on the St. Edmund 40-yard line. And you can't punt it because even though St. Edmund hadn't really gotten the ball going in the second half, you feel like if you're giving them the ball up 2 possessions, the game's just going to end. Like you're going to find a way to end the game at that point. You have to go for it. You have to get it. And Rowan Bergeron, some kind of option keeper, 40 yards for a touchdown. He rushes it. And scores a touchdown, makes it 38-35. Okay. A couple of punts. He goes down for a second with cramps, and everyone at OC holds their breath because they can't get back in that game. That game's over because they're still trailing.
Right.
So he goes down with a cramp because he's also, during all of this, he's also playing punt return and cornerback.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of roles.
He also gets 30 punt return yards. He also has a pass breakup in this game. Okay. St. Edmund gets the ball early in the fourth quarter after that drive. And it was, I believe, to Zano, who was also playing both ways, playing wide receiver and safety. Henry Summerlin gets one of these, there were some of these plays with St. Edmund's O-line where it looks like the parting of the Red Sea. And you do these counter plays, and he turns around, and you have a hole that's like 4 yards wide. And he gets one of these, again, finally for the first time in the second half, and you're like, oh, he's going to run this for 50 yards and a touchdown. The game's going to end. Because they're at this point, that's what it feels like.
Right.
You get one more touchdown, the game's going to end. Tizano, shoestring tackle, saves the game.
Yeah.
Edmund has to punt. 9 minutes left to go in the game. He gets the ball back. Rowan Bergeron steps back on the field. He puts the cape on one more time and leads them 50-yard touchdown and 50-yard pass to get them into scoring range, and a couple of runs, and he rushes it in for his 4th touchdown of the game to put OC in the lead for the first time since the first quarter.
Okay.
6 minutes to go. All of a sudden, St. Edmund, who had been, like I said, leading for almost the entirety of this game, now is trailing, hasn't scored on offense the entire second half, and has to ask their offense to score on demand with one more chance with 5 minutes to go in the game. And Kane West, who had only completed 2 passes the entire game, finds a Gridiron Football All-American invitee.
Yeah, you just saw the post just before this. Yep.
Blake Moran.
Yep.
Catches his first pass of the game for like 50 yards.
Yep.
And changes the game because they needed one. Because once they get in the goal line, it's over.
Yep.
But they needed one chunk to get there.
Chunk play. I got it.
He finds it, catches it, runs down the sideline, down the St. Edmund sideline. Everyone's going ballistic, gets down, tackled down at the 2-yard line. 2 plays later, Kane West for his 3rd rushing touchdown of the game. And they go for 2. They get it again. St. Edmund leading 46-42. And this is an important number because before they traded these touchdowns, it was 7 for 8. Before they traded these touchdowns, it was 38-30. It was 38-35, where OC, who has a kicker, they'll kick a field goal to tie the game.
Yeah.
But because they didn't go for 2, when they scored a touchdown, they kicked an extra point. St. Edmund got it. Now is up by 4. Now you need a touchdown.
Yep. You got to score a touchdown.
With 2 minutes to go, Rowan Bergeron has to put on that cape one more time.
Yeah.
This finish was insane. Okay. So he's trying to move the ball down the field. A couple of incomplete passes. We get to 4th and 10 on the 50-yard line, their own 40-yard line with 40 seconds to go in the game, 37 seconds to go in the game. They have 1 timeout left. It's desperation mode. Rowan Bergeron looks to his right, looks to his left, finds a crossing route, finds the running back, Hayden Jennings, over the middle for 11 yards to convert it.
Okay.
However, I got a chance to look at the play, like the film of the play recorded by one of the other guys. He was able to like look at it, and we looked at it and we're like, that's an incomplete pass.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was one of those plays where he catches it, gets tackled, the ball comes out.
Yeah.
And it just as easily, like, 1 in 3 chance could have been ruled a fumble that St. Edmund recovers, which ends the game, ruled an incomplete pass, which ends the game, or what it was ruled on the field, which was a complete pass converted for a first down.
Yeah, right.
We stay alive. I mention this because this is really important. OC catches a break in a game where a lot of Vikings fans felt like they didn't catch a whole lot of breaks.
Mm-hmm.
The refs were fine. They were making fair calls, but it just from like, especially on OC's sideline, it felt like every single time from their perspective, it was like, so many flags. Come on, we keep getting, we keep getting the shaft. Basically, is the feeling that they had.
Mm-hmm.
They finally get a break to go their way on a somewhat controversial call. Now it's maybe not even. Who knows? Who cares? But point is, they have a breath of life. 30 seconds to go. They need about 40-ish yards. And Rowan Bergeron streaking down the St. Edmund sideline gains 30 yards to get down to the 10-yard line.
Oh, my goodness.
10 seconds to go in the game. On the, again, 8-yard line, 7-yard line, something along those lines. OC still has their one timeout. So they've got probably 2 plays and the ability to use the entire field to gain, again, 7-ish yards. Rowan Bergeron looks, throws, and he is intercepted in the end zone by Coy Trahan.
Wow.
A player we hadn't talked about the entire day.
Yeah, that's usually what happens a lot of times. Look at the role with the Patriots and Seahawks. Yeah.
He's a senior leader of this team, but he's a guy that doesn't get a lot of the headlines, plays cornerback for them, gets the interception when they needed it most on a day where the defenses didn't make a lot of plays.
Yeah.
Makes the play to win the game for St. Edmund. They lose it. The crowd loses it. Kane West takes a knee, the only anticlimactic play of the entire game, basically.
It was the quarterback knee.
And again, tears streaming down people's faces, hugs. Everyone was ecstatic. For what it means for St. Edmund, who is now easily the favorite to win their district for the first time in who knows how long. Their best start since 2008 was what I found.
Yep.
5-0. Beating OC for the first time in 11 years. This is monumental as a victory for them. It means everything, and everybody out there in that Blue Jay community in Eunice deserves all of the credit in the world for an amazing performance. A gut-wrenching, a gut-check performance for this team. Yeah. In a game that felt like 2, insurmountable foes, someone had to lose. And Rowan Bergeron and OC, look, Opelousas Catholic had an amazing game as a whole. Someone had to lose this game.
It was one of those games both teams deserved to win it.
Absolutely.
This is what it was.
But I want to highlight Rowan Bergeron for a second. He was the best player on the field. Mm-hmm. He was Superman. They asked him to put on that cape so many times. First half, wide receiver dominates. 4 catches, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Second half has to play quarterback because the starting quarterback goes out. He gets 70 yards through the air, another 115 yards on the ground, 32 punt return yards, and a pass breakup, 2 rushing touchdowns for a total of 423 all-purpose yards, a pass breakup, 4 total touchdowns. That is a player of the week nominee to me.
Oh yeah. He's definitely gonna be a nominee, and this is gonna be one of these games where we may have multiple from both teams. That's how crazy it was. So real quickly, because I know we're about to wrap up here, but you got a chance to talk to Coach Shiver, James Shiver, after the game. Got a chance to talk to Kane West. Obviously, they probably were lost for words of what to even say after a game like that. But real quickly, what did they have to say about the game?
Oh yeah, this was a complete team win from their perspective. The offense, the defense, the special teams. The defense was able to make plays from Coach Shiver's perspective, even though the final score doesn't indicate that. And he was super proud of his guys. He talked about, those 2-point conversions. And that is a philosophy from him that dates back to, you talked about Kane West and those workout videos.
Uh-huh.
He knew the team he had during those workouts in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
He knew the guys he had up front. He knew the quarterback that was going to be holding that ball in those plays. So he felt confident in being able to call that again and again and again and convert basically every single time. Kane, I remember, I'm not going to forget this for a long time. I'm walking over there, and I want to take a picture of him in the moment after the game. But I realize he has like tears streaking down his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He's spent emotionally.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, this is better saved for the football field.
Right.
After that, after Coach Shriver talked briefly, because he wasn't going to be able to keep their attention for long after a game like that, I got a chance to talk to Coach Shriver, and then I talked to him, and he said, I look a little bit more okay before this. Looks a little bit more put together.
Yeah, right.
And genuinely, people were crying. This was you cannot overstate how important this was for the team, for the school, for the community, for everybody around this organization, around this football team. Absolutely huge props. And the whole experience was great. OC, they were great hosts. It was a great experience. Donald Gardner Stadium is a really good stadium. We got to stop at the chicken place beforehand.
My mama's chicken.
Mama's chicken.
Oh yeah, it's good. Mama's chicken is good.
Just the whole day was a wonderful experience, an exhausting experience, a very long game, but a wonderful one. And genuinely, in my opinion, it's going to be really tough to top as the game of the year at this point for the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, amazing game, amazing performance. Congratulations to Coach James Shiver and the St. Edmund Blue Jays. Huge win, obviously, for this team. They are still undefeated, 5-0, and this Blue Jays team is rolling. And it's going to be interesting to see how they can respond after such a big win. Moving forward and see how they continue that momentum. Alex, great job as always. Continue to do good work, and we'll catch next time. We'll see if next week can beat what was this week's game.
It'll be tough to top.
Let's see if next up. I don't know what game we're going to be covering this week, but it's got some big shoes to fill to try to overcome the game you just saw on Friday.
Yeah, thank you for having me, of course, and I'll see you guys next week.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Another segment here of Ballin In Da Boot. I'm your host, Jace LeJeune, alongside Jacob Colombo, who is our high school beat writer, I guess official high school beat writer for the Istrouma Indians. But I talked to Jacob before the stream, and we're actually going to have him cover a high school football game on Thursday as well. So we'll talk about next week, obviously, when we recap games. But Jacob took a little bit of a road trip with the Istrouma Indians down to Algiers, take on LB Landry, and not much going on for LB Landry the last couple of years. Now, when I first really got into this business, Landry Walker was really good. They won a state championship, beat West Monroe in the process. I know it's been a couple of years since then, but Istrouma. They bounced back last week after the tough loss to St. Michael. Now, interesting road trip for this team. I guess a team bonding experience really for this team. But they're able to get on the road. Got the drive. The drive didn't seem like it didn't really affect them that much in a big win.
Yeah, it didn't really affect them. Unfortunately, when we got to the stadium, the side that we parked the buses on, we couldn't get in on that side because they had water on like the entry that was like about 6 inches, and they didn't want the players to walk through it. So we basically spent another 15 minutes going around the stadium to get in. So they only had about like 15 or so minutes to warm up and get like stretches in. But I mean, this offense looked completely new. They actually had a very strong pass presence in this game. Shout out Frank Alexander.
Okay.
I think he finished with 2 or 3 passing TDs for this game, and obviously Kyrie Paul did his thing. Istrouma won the coin toss, and they wanted their defense to be out there firsthand to just see what LB Landry was up, and they forced the 3 and out, and then Kyrie on a really good bounce on a punt, he returned it about like 20 yards, and then I think maybe 1 or 2 plays happened again, and then a 63-yard touchdown for Kyrie Paul, which he just visited Southeastern yesterday.
Yeah, and he's a good one, right? And it's good to see Kyrie Paul back in action too, and he's as dangerous as it comes. And I believe one time, I believe he was punting, right? And then
Yeah,
he just said, "Hey, I got it, guys. I'm gonna just not try to pick this one up and just go 60 yards for a touchdown, right? Or
or
60
actually,
yards for a play."
that's what it was. It was actually LB Landry came out hot on defense too after the 3 by them, and then they had a punt, and it was a bad snap, and Kyrie must have just saw a lane, and he took it all the way to LB's, I think 45 or somewhere around there. So
Okay.
that's how they set up for that. But the first half, Kyrie had 124 yards. If I know how to count right for stats, because that's what I was doing too. I was recording, doing stats,
That's all right.
and writing.
Multitasking a little bit.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Number 10. Well, obviously Frank Alexander being in this offense completely changed the passing game. They looked very functional passing the ball, and one of the first touchdowns in the first quarter was to number 10. I don't believe I got a name on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get a number. I didn't get a name on it, but a 30-yard like drag route for the touchdown. Um, then James McCray on the defensive side on LB Landry's second drive
Hmm.
comes up with an interception, and then number 23 for Istrouma, they punch it in after the interception. I mean, it's hard to talk about it. Like if I wish I did get to watch some good competitive, but it's hard to be like, yeah, it's just blowouts and then it's just constant.
Yeah. I mean, start off with 28-0. Istrouma just jump up to a big lead.
Yeah,
Early on,
20 nothing at half.
20-0.5, and it's just kind of cruise control, pretty much. So, basically, when in a blowout, right? I mean, there's some things I guess take away from it. Things that you can take away positively, obviously for Struma. So just wrapping this game up, Jacob, what were some positives that you saw overall? You just said the passing game. It seemed like this was the first time where we got to see a consistent passing game from a Struma. We always knew about Kyrie Paul, what kind of playmaker he is, and if they can get the passing game going with him and get him involved in the run game too, this Australian Indian team can be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I think like one of the other like some of the two big key factors. Well, number 8 for um LB Landry, Tyron McGinnis.
Mhm.
He late in the game he scored a touchdown on some
Okay.
on some very favorable calls to get them in Istrouma territory.
Yeah.
And then since they showed some sort of life, Istrouma answered back with I think either a freshman or sophomore in number 88 Xavier Johnson with
Hmm.
about a 20-yard touchdown, and it was a beautiful ball, 6'4". He basically jumped over everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then their LB Landry's last drive, intercepted by Kyrie Paul to basically steal the game. So Kyrie played a whole bunch of defensive back this game. So it's definitely helpful seeing a whole bunch of these running backs get a lot more reps than just Kyrie.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think I think also another big guy on the defensive side for Struma, Jeremiah Coleman.
Hmm.
He really could have had two strip fumble recoveries
Hmm.
if the referees didn't call the play dead, and
Hmm.
he was just playing dominant. He's been obviously last week he filled in for Kyrie at running back and he had a great game, and he still also ran that ball this week as well.
Yeah. So a big win for Struma. And I guess Jacob, if you have to say This is probably the best performance all year long from this team, right?
Yes. I think I also heard on the way back something about Coach Sid Edwards needs like 2 more wins for something. I didn't get the exact details of something. It may be like a record or something that he might break for wins in.
He could be the no. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head, but Sid could probably be the winningest coach in Baton Rouge.
Possibly. I just heard 2 more wins. That's all. But I
Or it
mean,
could be like a certain number. Like he could get
yeah,
to like
certain.
180 or like 200 or something like that. Maybe it's like a milestone number.
Yeah, but he's definitely brewing up some stuff in Istrouma. I think. I mean, I think they're 100% going to do better than what they did last year, which I think is. I think they won 6 games last year.
Yeah, and they won a playoff game. I believe they and there's a funny story behind this, Jacob, because I was actually listening to the radio when they were interviewing Sid Edwards after they won the first round playoff game. And he was telling his guys, "Well, guys, we got St. Thomas More coming up in the second round of the playoffs," and all the Struma players were saying, "Oh, in Baton Rouge, that St. Thomas." They got the middle school St. Thomas More. Like,
Mhm.
"Oh, we got this, we got this." Well, apparently they never heard of St. Thomas More in Lafayette. That was been a powerhouse in Louisiana. So I guess it was better that they didn't know who they were playing, but
I'm pretty sure I saw St. Thomas More. They haven't been doing that good this year. I don't believe.
yeah, it's been a rough start to the season for them. Now they got a big win over Westgate this past week, but it is because they are replacing a lot of guys on the offensive side of the football. But they did get a big win, so we'll see if they can build on that. They did play a tough schedule early in the season, playing Catholic High, Acadiana, so some really tough games. But yeah, I mean, just what did Coach Edwards say about the game to the guys?
I think he said at the end of the game it was the most complete game of football that they've played all year, and which I totally agree. The
Yeah.
offense looked great, minus for like. I think that is still one of the big problems with the Streamer right now is just their penalties. I think they had close to 15 again
Okay.
with penalties, and their offensive line hasn't been doing a real good job of keeping out blockers. But I mean, having very mobile and strong running backs helps when they can just run
Yeah.
around or just juke them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like really their two big weaknesses is just penalties and offensive line.
So already, Jacob, kind of hard to believe, but we're halfway through the regular season. We're going to the second half of the year. Next week, I believe Istrouma has Bel Air next week, and Broadmoor, West Louisiana. Now that Plaquemine game, I mean, that could also decide a district championship against the Green Devils, and they've been playing really good right now. You can probably say the favorites to win that district right now, and then ending the season with Burley. So.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it's gonna be up to Struma and St. Michael probably, unless St. Michael's already have another loss in district.
Yeah, so let's see. So Plaquemine, I'm trying to see when they play St. Michael because that'll be up for a district. Let's
And I
see.
mean, I think we're the only team.
2 weeks they play. So that Plaquemine St. Michael game, and then also depending on how that goes, if Plaquemine was able to beat St. Michael, then if Strum was able to beat Plaquemine, it could be a 3-way tie for district.
Yeah, and I think especially since we only lost to them by 7, I think we definitely they definitely proved that we could definitely win this district. And I mean, obviously, we didn't have everybody in full capacity because I think they returned like 5 new players this week from transferring into Struma.
Yeah.
So the team only gotten more players and key positions, especially at quarterback.
Yep, but the team moves to 4-1. They're coming off with their most dominant performance of the year against LB Landry on the road. So it seems like this could be a confidence booster for this team moving forward. Jacob, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I don't really got anything. They just need to work on penalties, and
Yeah, that's the one thing. Got Steve. You got to stop shooting yourself in the foot, pretty much. But this Struma team is getting better and better each week, and we'll see how they improve next week. And Jacob will also give us a report for another game he's going to be covering on Thursday as well. Jacob, continue the good work, and we'll talk next week on Ball in the Boot.
Alrighty. Man, I had a good day today.
Hey guys, another segment here on Ballin In Da Boot. This is our last high school segment before we talk to our guys, Louisiana prospects, about the flag football and middle school football going on, and just give an overall scope of Louisiana high school football. I brought in my man Grant Chachere on the show. Grant's doing a great job. Was a former intern for us at Gridiron Football. Now he's worked for Crescent City Sports over Ken Trahan and the fellows over there, doing a great job with them. And then also he's got his own stuff with River Sports, the Sports Network. Sports channel, and he's done a good job with that too. I also help him host a show every Friday night, football Friday nights in the Bayou. So keeps on doing a really good job. He's doing a guy's hat in the ring and a lot of different things going on for sure. And Grant, we're pretty much right at that halfway point. We just finished week 5, which is crazy to think that we're about to enter the second half of the regular season. But here we're going to talk more about storylines. But Grant, just first of all, another week in high school in the books. How you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. And it's just a lot of crazy stuff going on. I mean, it's been a lot of insanity going on across the state, from the north to the south. And, I'm glad I haven't gotten insane yet, but, I think it's good that we're seeing a lot of insanity going on in Louisiana high school football, and because it makes us, the sport better. We've seen a lot, of course, as we mentioned before, we've seen a lot of surprise teams. We've seen like the Catholic, for example, the Catholic League. There's a lot of parity this year. I know Karr is obviously still the best team in the Catholic League right now. But we've seen Holy Cross upset Jesuit.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people didn't see that. You gotta go to Lafayette. Westgate's struggling a little bit because of injuries, and St. Thomas War has gotten off to the right start, but now they're 2-3. They've won 2 straight. Karen Crow, I believe they won their first game of this week. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on across the state right now, and I'm really excited. We've just gotten right past the midway point, and it's going by pretty fast. But now since we're at the midway point, we have an idea of who's who and what's what, and watch it for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. You said pretty good there, Grant. And I wouldn't say it hasn't been as wild as that college football Saturday we've had this past Saturday, but that's a topic for another show. But it's been pretty crazy, pretty wild. And even though we got here for an overall perspective, Grant, let's talk about a wild game we both covered on Thursday between Franklinton and Jules Sumner. It was a crazy game. Jules Sumner was coming in undefeated, and they're looking pretty strong as well. Meanwhile, look at the other side of things. Franklinton trying to make a statement here, trying to prove a point. It was an entertaining football game. Jules Sumner thought that they had control for the most part, but Franklinton just kept on hanging in the game, hanging around. And then when you let a good team just hang around, it's a matter of time before they strike back. And down by 8, 2 minutes left. I think the biggest play of the game was the extra point. Jules Sumner went up by 8, had a chance to connect on the extra point, maybe to go up by 9 and really close the deal. Extra point was no good. Allowed Franklinton to get the ball with 2 minutes. They went right down the field, scored a touchdown, and got the 2-point conversion to send it in overtime. Defense got to stop when it needed to, and then they relied on their 9th grade kicker to win the game for them. But that was a crazy game. Probably the best game that I've covered so far early in this high school season. But it was a statement, and I'm sure you're going to go into it, Grant. But Nick Saltformaggio, he with you there, Spencer there, myself, he was trying to make a point like, hey, put some respect on our name, and I feel like that respect was given on Thursday.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Franklinton has not been the program as it once was under Shane Smith for a while, and that's kind of what happens with these type of programs. That are kind of in the countryside of Louisiana. Franklinton's in the very southeastern part of the state, in Washington Parish. And Franklinton, it's not like it's not like the river parishes where you're always going to have talent. In that part, in Tangible Parish and Washington Parish especially, if you once a few classes leave, like few of your talented classes leave, you might have a few classes that aren't great, and that's kind of what happens at a place like Franklinton. But they hired Santa Formaggio a couple years ago after he got let go by Holy Cross, by the way, and which was his alma mater. And the thing about Santa Formaggio is that Coach Salt is that he's very good at these type of jobs where it seems impossible to win there, and then he wins there. And of course, you saw that with at East Jeff, where he led the Warriors to their first ever state championship over a Karr team that was just beginning right before they started to become a dynasty in the mid to late 2010s. So, and then he also with the Hanville. I know Hanville is obviously not like East Jeff and
right.
And of course, because Hanville we're talking about, but because the Hanville leads him to a state title game where they ended up losing to
exactly, I believe,
yeah, and he goes to Holy Cross, which kind of shocked some people, but then at the same time he's a Holy Cross alum. It doesn't work out there, as we may recall.
Right.
And then gets let go, and then Shane Smith, who's now the principal at Franklinton, called him, hired him. Last year they got 3-7, so it wasn't great. But this year they stopped with a bang, going 4-1. Their only loss was to a Covenant team that's undefeated right now. Yeah. And because of who they played some really good teams. Right now they're the number 1 team on the power ratings. I believe they're either. I know they're number 1. I'm not sure if things have changed. After this week, I just want to double check that, but they're definitely in the top 3.
Yeah, they're number 2. I think
they're number 1. So they're number 1, and then this week they'll have a huge game against Lakeshore, which actually is probably one of the sleeper games across the state, and it probably is the top 3 game in the New Orleans area. I mean, consider that Franklinton is number 1 in the power ratings, and Lakeshore is number 3 in the power rankings. They were originally number 2, but Lutcher had a great win over Vandebilt Catholic, shut up 33-0 victory over Vandebilt Catholic, which I was at, and so they moved up to number 2 now.
Yeah. You just mentioned it. I mean, Vandebilt Catholic, we got a chance to talk about that game with Isharay, and I was really impressed with the running game, with the defense as well. So it was a stingy defense from Lutcher. The force of shutout there, and also when you look at a big win for Franklinton too, like you said. So it's been really interesting. A huge matchup coming up for them, obviously, against the Lakeshore team. That's also been having a pretty good start to the season.
Yeah.
Now
I can say one more thing though. Yeah, a lot of credit has to go to Jules Sumner. Jules Sumner is a very good team.
They are a good team.
I mean, that's their own first loss of the year. They have a lot of studs. I mean, they're huge too. Their running backs are huge. Their linebacker, their front 7 is huge. That's a very good team.
Yeah.
And that's Jamon Dyson, Kamar Warren, quarterback, Jeremiah Brooks, probably some most sustaining offensive player.
Guys scored, I think. Like 5.
Like the quarterback, Jamon, Jeremiah Brooks, and then there's somebody, I think it was Kendall Bradley. 4 guys scored.
Yeah, 4 guys scored. Yeah, multiple guys.
So out of the win T. So that is a team you definitely need to watch out for.
Oh yeah.
As the season goes on, because they have Pine coming up and then Amy, and they have a hell of a shot to win their district. I mean, that's a very good team.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and because they're in an area where it's more known for Kentwood, which is in the same town. Still Sumner's in Kentwood,
right?
And then you got Amy. Those they're kind of overshadowed, but now they got a good group of guys there, and I really think because of who they have, the athleticism, the speed, and also the size, they may make a run in Select Division 3.
Yeah,
they can make a little run. I mean, they can. I think they're going to shock some people when it comes to playoff time.
I agree. And Jules Sumner shows that hey, they're not scared of those teams. I mean, they beat Amy last year.
Yes,
so, this is a really good Jules Sumner football team. And I told you after the game, Grant, that I came impressed with both teams.
Yes,
really both teams. So.
Yeah, and I was saying that too, because Sumner was up 27-13. I was like, this is a statement win for this team. But then Franklinton came back, of course, and then ended up being a statement win for them. But it was a huge statement by both teams over that game, regardless if there was a win or a loss. I mean, that was a fantastic game by both sides. There was a whole lot of mistakes, which made the 49-39 score even more more of a great game, because there's hardly any mistakes by both sides.
Yeah,
really, if you really to go back and look at that game.
Yeah, I mean, early on, you maybe had a couple of turnovers back and forth, like the first maybe couple
Yeah.
sequences, but after that, I mean, it was a great football game, that's for sure. So, I'm going to touch briefly since I was able to cover it on Friday, but U High was able to get a 29-12 win over St. Paul's. U High, they really didn't have to lean on Emil Picarello that much. I think he only threw maybe about 10 passes the entire game. So they relied on the ground game with Sage Ingram and Corbin Odell. Sage was really the guy that really got them down the field, and Corbin just was the one that was able to finish drives with touchdowns. He got 2 touchdowns that night. Obviously, Keelan Moses got a fake punt, and he went down for about 60 yards for a touchdown. They direct snapped it to him on a fake punt, and he scored. They also got a pick 6 as well to get on the scoreboard as well. But St. Paul's, they moved the football. And even Emil Picarello's dad, Emil Sr. commented on my post about it that the defense looked pretty good, but for the most part, I mean, St. Paul's was moving the ball up and down the field in between the 20s. They just were able to cash in on some opportunities there. But with an interception and there were some fumbles here and there. They were able to get the plays they needed to, but St. Paul's I think Brennan threw for 250 on U High. So just trying to get that defense to lock down was basically the concern there. And then they also, it could have been a wider margin. U High, I talked to Coach Martin about this real quickly, Grant, before you can talk a little bit about Edna Karr. But it was 3 turnovers. 2 of them were in the red zone. And then Dave Martin had a punt return. Looked like he was going to score. And then he lost the ball in the end zone for a touchback. So that was a fumble as well. So turnovers, there were some mistakes there. But U High was able to cruise 29-12. And then Keelan Moses did get injured in the game in the third quarter. This is the part where they were trying to get him involved on offensively to try and maybe close the game out. And then it looked like that it was an ankle from what I understand, but could be wrong. But he looked like he was limping, trying to get off the field, and he just fell down, got helped off by some trainers, and he was able to walk under his own power. He just got, maybe a little bit of help from trainers, but he was walking under his own power. They gave him some crutches. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. It didn't look nearly as bad as when they brought the crutches out, but he did walk off the field. So talked to Coach Martin about it. He did say that they're going to evaluate it and they're going to look at it. Just hopefully it's not as bad as it is, and then we'll see moving forward. But U High was able to get the win, big win over St. Paul, 29-12. Grant, you have any reactions to that game, maybe?
I think it kind of what I expected it to be. I think U High, I know they're a 3A school, but really more of a 5A school more than anything like that. They're just 3A because of the sheer size of the school. U High is really not that big. But U High, of course, I think this also, they had a really close game with Rummel, who right now, I know they lost against Brother Martin, but that Rummel team is still going to be a very good team down the line. I don't think that Brother Martin game is going to, make me look down on Rummel at any point, just because I think they're really good. They're still trying to figure some things out offensively. But they've also beaten Catholic, which, they've won 3 of the last 4 state titles in Division I select. Right. And then now they beat a pretty good St. Paul's team that I think is one of the more underrated teams around the state. Yeah. So, they have that, they're starting to get hot. And I knew that Brendan Kahn was going to give a little problems in terms of the passing game. Right. But overall, I knew that U High was going to pull it off in the end. This is a team that right now is the favorite to win the state championship Division II select. Yeah. Last season they didn't end on their best notes, losing to St. Charles. In the semifinals and D3 semifinals last year. Now that those group of guys are hungrier than they were the year before, but now it'll be very interesting to see how they'll do without Keelan Moses. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Of course, idea. It's not like college where they're going to announce, hey, this guy's out for like the next 7-8 weeks. It's high school, so
you just show up and see what happens. See
basically, it's like Jackson Furman. It's like that dude was in a sling one week, and the next week he's throwing touchdowns. We just don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, so we'll find out, and hopefully for Keelan, this is senior year, so we want him to go out on his own terms and have the type of senior season he wants. So, I'm sure we're not the only ones crossing their fingers. There's a lot of Cub fans right now crossing their fingers now too about that. Grant, now let's talk about that. We talked about it. Darryl was at the game and he gave us a really great breakdown on the game for Edna Karr and St. Aug, but you're at the game too. So just overall thoughts on, I guess, from an overall perspective. I know one of the things I talked about on your show, Grant, was a measuring stick for St. Aug and see how well did they measure up to Edna Karr. I think the final score was 34-13, but just break it down and how did St. Aug measure up to Karr?
I think St. Aug measured up the Karr pretty well. Early on, both teams kind of went back. Karr scored on the very first drive pretty quickly. Like, I had a hard time trying to keep up with my stats because that's how fast we moved the ball down the field. I was like, because it's like, I know they go down the field pretty fast, but the last time we covered Karr was their jamboree, but they were scoring, like they averaged probably like 3.5 plays per drive because they're just scoring that well against Landry. But this is the first time where you actually see him play against a real opponent, and they were moving the ball quickly down the field. So I had a hard time trying to get notes. I actually asked Chris Nabe right next to me. I was like, "Hey, can I borrow your stats real quick?" Like they were moving the ball down the field pretty fast, and then St. Aug scored even quicker than they did. So it looked like, we might have a shit on our hands, and then it was scoreless for the next few drives, a couple of turnovers here and there. And then Karr eventually was able to score a touchdown off of a 65-yard pass from John Johnson to Dejon Smith. Dejon Smith, I think, right now has 8 receiving touchdowns on the year. And so he's been a breakout star for this Karr team. And then St. Aug got the ball back. And they're driving the ball down pretty efficiently. They were able to get in the red zone, but then they throw a pick. Karr got the ball back, and I think that's when the game changed from there because Karr had complete control over that game. And Brian Sanchez had 17 carries for 107 yards, 3 tutties.
Talk about him a lot.
John Johnson, by the way, I should have texted you, hey, make sure to nominate him for Player of the Week because I think he deserves it. 255 yards of passing, 2 touchdowns, and he had 100 yards of rushing as well. And a big game like that,
Right. Sure.
I guess the St. Aug defense is pretty good. I would say St. Aug defense is pretty good. And I think the biggest takeaway I took from that game was that you see the difference between a team and a program. All right, St. Aug right now is a team. They're a very good team. They have the talent in the world, but they're not a program. A program is something that, not only do you have a great team, but you have a great culture. There's, there's accountability, there's discipline, there's chemistry, there's all the stuff that goes into what makes a team a championship caliber team. And then of course a program. Karr is a program. Karr is, they've won 5-6 state championships since the year 2010. They've won 6 state titles as a program in their history. I think the only time from 2020, I think besides 2022, I think since 2010 they've advanced they advanced to the quarterfinals every single year, and they've only been to the quarterfinals once or twice during that span. This is a team that won 4 straight state championships from 2016 to 2019.
Yep.
And they went to 5 straight from 2016 to 2020. That's a program. Now look at the players they produce. Look at how disciplined that team is week in and week out. Everyone's gunning for the heads, yet they stay disciplined. They stay motivated to go out there and perform their very best. St. Aug is not there yet. They got a great coach in Robert Valdez. I think he'll create that program I'm talking about. I think St. Aug will be St. Aug once again in no time. I don't think this is the year. I think this is the year. It's a stepping stone of what it could be. And you're starting to see it, but they're not on Karr's level yet. I think a lot of people around the St. Aug, they're very excited. I think this is the first time where I've seen a lot of people really excited about the St. Aug program on North. Matter of fact, people are placing bets at barbershops. I saw that from a tweet. earlier that day. So there's a lot of excitement around the St. Aug program, but they're just not there yet. They're getting closer. I think it's going to take a year or two before they become what I'm describing right now.
Right.
Karr is a program. Rommel is a program. Curtis, of course, is probably the greatest example of that program.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Even Brother Martin, even though they haven't won a championship since 1971, under Bonise, they've been a program.
Right.
It's about consistency. It's about having a culture. I think they're getting there, but I don't think this is the year. I think it'll be in the next year or two. But Robert Valdez, you don't know what Robert Valdez may do. Because here's the thing, like he could easily go back to taking a big time public school job. You saw that with Simno, right?
Yeah.
Leaving Catholic to Central. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes into play. There's more stuff that comes into play when you got to think about these coaches. But I think if Robert Valdez stays there for a pretty good time, I think St. Aug will be what Karr is. Because what you're looking at Karr right now is what St. Aug used to be in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where they're winning all the time. And then the 80s are pretty good. The 90s are like a few plays away from going back to the state championship, but they have not been back since 1979. But I think in no time they'll be back in the dome where they belong. It's been a long time coming for the Purple Knights.
Yeah, it's definitely a good measuring stick. It was like, if you want a measuring stick of where you're at, that is a good team to get that measuring stick against. Now we talk about split, the non-select and select and all that. One of the crying shames that we're going to get from not having back to what it was is you're not going to see a potential maybe state championship matchup against Ruston and Karr, which is unfortunate because right now those two teams look like the best two teams in the state. But right now, Grant, Ruston's going to the state of Texas and dominating their tour to the state of Texas. But talking to Isharay, talking to Darryl, that this and the Karr team does not have major weaknesses at all. So if it was on the field, who do you think you would give the edge to if Ruston and Karr were able to?
Well, I'm going to respond to what you said. I think, it might be a disappointment. They might just not see Karr and Ruston, but guess what? I think Karr is going to play Catholic or Acadiana state championship, if not beforehand.
Right.
So I don't think you should look down. We don't get to see Karr and Ruston because there's a lot of good teams in Division I select as well that I'm really high on. I can't wait for a Karr Catholic. If that ever happens, I hope it does because I think those two teams have been the best programs since the mid 2010s. Because Karr and Catholic took off basically the same exact time. We've seen them play each other in the regular season.
Right.
I would really like to see that atmosphere in the dome, right? Just because
even in the quarterfinals, I think 2 years ago, I think
it's always been the quarterfinals, but to me, that's not the same as seeing each other.
Right.
So I hope that they're 1 and 2, or at least on the opposite sides of the bracket, so we get to see that matchup. But Acadiana is very good too. There's a lot of good teams in Division I select and non-select. But going off your point, that's a good question about Karr or Ruston. I think, I think both teams don't really have a lot of weaknesses, but if I had to be a betting man right now, I might have to take Ruston. What Ruston has accomplished in the last 3 years, we've seen before, but they've only lost one game.
Yeah.
I know they lost against Easton last year, but that didn't count against a record that actually was credited as a win. But they've only lost one game in the last 3 years, and their defense, has been just brutalizing opposing offenses. They went to Stephenville. For people who don't know, Stephenville, Texas is one of the top programs in the state. Texas, not even just right now, but historically. And Ruston went over there, and they're currently the number 1 team in Class 4A over there in the state of Texas, which is no joke, by the way. Class 4A is a really solid classification in the state of Texas. And they went over there and whooped them 63-17. And plus Stephenville, they have won 6 state championships in their program's history. The first being in 1993 and their most recent being in 2021. This is a program that is no joke. And of course, probably the most notable head coach over there was Art Briles, by the way. Art Briles actually got his that's became a prominent high school head coach in the state of Texas, was coaching at Stephenville, and the success that carried over to obviously him becoming an offensive coordinator, then eventually a head coach. Then Russell went in there and just whooped them. They've already whooped Longview. You already know about Longview and their history of the program. Now they did it to a program like Stephenville, and I just don't think that. And I was telling this to Jared, and I told you this on Friday during our nightcap shows. Like, if Ruston were to ever lose a game this year, for example, if they did beat Stephenville, which they did, so now they've beaten Stephenville. If anybody beats Ruston this year, they should rush the field and celebrate and take down the goalpost and throw it to the nearest pool, I guess, because that it will be if anybody beats Ruston this year, it will be an historic upset.
Yeah,
because this is right now we're witnessing history with this Ruston team.
Well, yep. As long as it's not on the Superdome, because I ain't gonna let that happen. But
they're not. But if you even though the way because they're gonna have home field advantage in the playoffs. So let's say somebody beats in the regular season. Let's say it's like a West Monroe. They played each other last year. Let's say that's Neville.
Maybe.
If they're Neville, take down the field or go to the river and dump it the field goal post in there. The only problem is you gotta get a new one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the problem.
But that's my point. Like, that's it. Whoever beats Russell this year, that will be an historic upset. For sure.
They are rolling right now, and we talked about I remember working with Lee, and he was talking about the great 1990 Ruston team, and this team is gonna be just as good for sure. Now let's talk about just 3 or 4 storylines, and just kind of get your thoughts on that from the last week. The first one obviously is St. Charles Catholic. Still winless on the year, and that could possibly continue next week because I believe they play Terrebonne. And Terrebonne came off a big win over Destrehan this past week. But, a lot of people are, I think, the panicking bunny right now. And rightfully so. Right now they're you don't see St. Charles Catholic, go 0-9. You're just not used to it. Because you talk about programs, Grant. St. Charles Catholic is another example of that.
Yeah.
Of how good they go in the state championship every single year. It seems like, look at Wayne Stein. Every year he's been the head coach at St. Charles Catholic. That team goes to the Superdome. That goes to the state championship game. So what's going on over there in St. Charles Catholic?
That's a great question. It's a lot of things. For starters, you lose a senior class. This is something we've talked about a lot. We talked about off the podcast and on the podcast is that they're young. They lost a lot of their starters from last year. I think 15 or 16 of their starters from last year have all graduated. That's a very historic senior class for that program. Because remember, 8th graders start on varsity. Like, the 8th graders are actually a part of the varsity roster.
Right,
They're the really good ones, of course. I'm not sure how they do with the 8th grade stuff over there, but I'm pretty sure the best 8th grade, their freshmen, the best freshmen are on varsity. The best 8th graders are on varsity. So from the time they started their varsity careers as 8th graders to the time they were seniors, they went to 5 straight state championships, which that's a very historic run for that program. And that's saying a lot because they've had that's a historically a great program that St. Charles Catholic has. But the fact that that's arguably the best run that school's ever had, and that's saying a lot because of the history within that program, the success they've had. Under Frank Monica and now under Wayne Stein as well. And also they just dealt with injuries. I know when I was covering the game against Denham, the running back Skylar Edwards could be out for a very long time, if not out for the whole entire year. And they also were missing some key stars on the defense, which is their bread and butter, as we've known St. Charles to be. They've always been a defensive team. That's what they've been known for. And when you combine all those factors in and you have a tough non-conference, I think this is the toughest non-district schedule they've had in a while, right? Because now they're up to 4A, so they're not trying, to compare yourself for 4A competition when you get to the playoffs and Division II select, you're going to have to play some tough opponents. But they're 0-3 4 right now, and one of those losses against the De La Salle team that's kind of dealing with the same thing.
Mhm.
They're trying to bounce, well, except the difference between like De La Salle has not been good. They weren't really good last year because they're young, and then this year they're still dealing with some stuff. So the fact that they got shut out 10-0 against that team was brutally shocking, and that's when I knew like, oh, this situation at St. Charles is a lot worse than you think. Because next week they got Terrebonne, and I got to pull up their schedule, but I mean it's just brutal. But I mean I think you got Terrebonne next week.
Yeah.
You still have you play Shaw the very last week of the year.
Yeah.
You know that. So you got Terrebonne, the Legacy School of Sports Sciences in the state of Texas, and that's a very good program in the state of Texas. And they nearly beat a very good Brother Martin team. And right now, Brother Martin's a lot better than St. Charles, so I think they'll lose that. St. Charles might lose that game. Then they got Belle Chase, who's currently the number 2 team in Division II non-select, in the power rankings. Then you got Kenner Discovery, and Kenner Discovery is a little bit of a pesky team.
Yeah.
Coach Buck's done a very good job there as well. And then you got Shaw the very last game of the year, and like you're one. And I'm like right now, it's become such a panic over there that people are starting to think that they might go winless, which is which might be the most shocking result.
Long time,
I mean, I can't think of a program that has gone 5 straight state championships. Not only missed the playoffs, but maybe not win the whole entire game the whole entire year, which is insane.
It is insane.
And you really have to go back to that 4th down call. I mean, like it just seems like that 4th down call was put some bad juju on the St. Charles Catholic team. I mean, like I've never seen this before. I'm not criticizing the coaching or anything like that, but like I'm just shocked. And this is the most shocking thing. This is probably the most shocking storyline all year. I mean, we talked about Karen Crow. Yeah. But there's a difference between like Karen Crow. I mean, they're a very good team and they're dealing with some issues as well in terms of their youth, which we know that. And they also have to replace their head coach.
Right.
A long time head coach.
It's a little bit of a culture shift.
Yeah. This, on the other hand, is just a team that went to 5 straight state championships, and we're not sure if they even win a game this year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just shocking, man. I've never seen that before. I mean, we're talking about Russ's historic run. Right now, we might be witnessing history of LaPlace. So I hope they get it together. Wayne-Stein's a good coach.
Oh yeah,
I think they'll figure it out. But you're going against a red hot Terrebonne team. Then you got to travel to the state of Texas. I mean, and then you got Belle Chase and Shaw, and their one win might come against Kenner Discovery, and I'm not sure even they might not win that.
That's not a guarantee.
Exactly.
So it's going to be tough. We'll see how they rebound, but yeah, I mean, another storyline has been some of these teams we were talking about earlier. It seems like they're finally getting it together, right? I mean, St. Thomas More got a big win over Westgate. That was a big win for sure to really get back on track. Karen Crow, you just mentioned them; they got a win. So some of these teams, I mean, Union Parish, they were able to get back on track with a win to get to 2-3. So a lot of these teams, this is huge, Grant. I mean, there's a big difference from going 2-3 from going and 1-4. So it seems like a lot of these teams that we're accustomed to of doing really well that struggled early in the season, or at that halfway point, this is a point where you have to start getting it together, right? This is where you talk about, okay, can you make those strides? And it looks like some of those teams are at least showing that last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, in previous shows, that a lot of the issues with the team struggling early on in the season is because, like we talked about St. Charles, with the youth, they had to replace a lot of key players from the year before. And then also, you have to play the toughest schedule as possible because nobody wants to play you in the non-district. So that's why you saw St. Thomas More start for the 1-3 record. That's why you saw Karen Crow start for the 1-4 record. That's why you've seen LCA start for the 1-4 record.
Right.
I mean, you look at some of the top teams that we had high expectations for entering the year, and they started off rough. But this isn't really. I mean, the amount of teams is shocking, but this is not the first time this happened. I mean, last year Catholic was 1-3 to start the year.
Yeah.
Look how that turned out.
Right.
At least on the field, I know the whole issue with Williamson, but on the field they're 1-3. And And then also Brother Martin a couple years ago. They finished the season 5-5.
Yeah.
They go all the way to the Dome.
Yeah. Rummel last year.
The Rummel's finished the season 4-6.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of high expectations for that team last year, but because they were younger and they also had to deal with a lot of injuries, including losing their star safety Derek Davis, who was out for the year. He's now at Stanford, but to tell you how big of a player he was for that team, he was out for the year.
Yeah.
But then they made a little run in the playoffs because they got a favorable draw that matched up with the players that they had, and they were able to go to the semifinals. And really, if that weather doesn't happen, I mean, Rummel could have probably beaten Catholic that night, but because they got rained out, they get played it the second half the next day. They end up losing, but if it doesn't rain that day, we're looking at Rummel being the state championship and maybe possibly winning the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
Just because you start rough doesn't mean all is lost. There's still a lot of time left. There's still 5 weeks of football to be played. Play your best football, and then you everything but right. And St. Thomas More, they're starting to figure it out.
Yep.
St. Thomas More is one of them, but I mean, there's a lot of teams that I think as the season goes on, they'll get better.
Yeah.
So I think the Madison Prep is a team like that where they get starting to get better. And they started the season rough, but now they seem like they're beginning a little bit better. Holy Cross just picked up a huge win over Jesuit last night.
Yeah.
Friday night, and
right.
we don't know if they're starting to rise up again because they were leading against Karr 20-0, and then obviously Karr won 45-20 because it's Karr. But there's a lot of teams that had rough starts of the year, but we don't know how good they're going to be the rest of the way. Because everyone has to schedule a tough non-district schedule because nobody wants to play you. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season, just because this is where the season really starts to heat up because we're starting district play now.
Yep, you're right. I mean, you got the non-district play. To me, there's always three stories to the season, to a whole season. You got your non-district play, you got your district play, and then you got playoff play. So, right now, you're about to begin stage 2, right? There's 3 stages, and we're in the second stage, and we'll see how these teams have improved and will improve moving forward. But on the flip side of it, there are some teams that we don't really talk about that much that are right now, surprising a lot of people, going 5-0, going 4-1. And we talk about Franklinton, at the beginning of the show, and then of the segment. And then how about Pope John Paul? We got to give them some love. Being Harlem Berry, St. Martin's Episcopal, getting a win over them. Covenant Christian starting undefeated. North Iberville going to their first varsity season in a while, and then them starting undefeated. So there's a lot of teams that we're not accustomed to that are undefeated right now. So it's like the opposite side of the coin that we're talking about.
Yeah, let's start off with Pope John Paul too.
Yeah.
That was a great win for that program. And to be honest with you, I don't really know a whole lot about their program just because that's really like how things have shaped up. That just a shocking start to the year for them. It just came out of nowhere. I do know that they have 2 really good players. One starting for Blaze Rodriguez. He had a huge game that last game. He threw for over 100, rushed for over 100, scored multiple touchdowns in that game. Huge player on the offside of the ball. And then of course you got DJ Jenkins, who just became eligible for that team.
Yeah, right.
And, has already made an impact for that team, and I think he will continue to make an impact. That's a team that probably everyone should watch out for. It just came out of nowhere, Jace. That's kind of what happens. Another team like that's Covenant Christian in Homa. Covenant Christian's 5-0 now, and they could make a run. They're making some noise. Really, you could just talk about the whole North Shore in general.
Yeah.
Mandeville. Might as well just do that. Mandeville 5-0. Nate Shepard's already scored 24 touchdowns
in 1 month.
That's what I'm saying. It's only been 1 month of football. He's already scored damn near 30 touchdowns in 5 games.
He's on pace for 90 touchdowns. 90 touchdowns.
Yeah, Lakeshore's 5-0. Lakeshore's got a great squad as well. Great backfield. They're led by Coach Brent Index, who's one of the best coaches in the state, one of the winningest coaches in the state. He's won over 200 games. Franklinton has made some noise. Franklin is 4-1. They have a big, like we said, they have a big matchup with Lakeshore this week. I mean, Covenant is 5-0.
Yeah.
Covenant is 5-0. I mean, they're 5-0. They have a big matchup against Vandebilt. They got players all across the field for them, especially in offense.
Yeah.
So I mean, the North Shore in general, I think, has been the most shocking.
Good point.
One of the better storylines. Just the rise of the North Shore in general.
Yeah.
If you're in the program in the North Shore, you want hot seats right now. Matter of fact, right now, I haven't released it yet, but I do a Magnificent 11, which is the top 11 programs in the New Orleans area. And right now, I have 3 teams from the North Shore. I got Mandeville, of course, Lakeshore, and Branklinton.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the North Shore is really not known for its football. And, of course, you still got to mention Kentwood and Amy. Those teams are in the North Shore as well. Usually it's just those schools, right, on the North Shore. They're, like, making noise. Now, and then, of course, Salmon. Now, with Salmon back in the 90s were really good, too.
Oh, yeah, right.
But now you're seeing the Mandeville schools play well. The Covenant schools.
Yeah.
Franklinton's making noise. I mean, across the North Shore in general. I mean,
Joel Sumner. We talked about Joel Sumner.
Joel Sumner, yep. And Joel Sumner's a program that's starting to come on the rise. So, really, I mean, you can turn this not only into like it's shocking results from the teams across the state. I think we just turned this in North Shore.
North Shore, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've been playing some really good football as of late.
They have. We talked about Northeast Louisiana the last show, but yeah, you made a good point. I mean, the North Shore right now is playing at a very high level right now.
I lumped them in the New Orleans area, but I think there's a specific reason in the New Orleans area. We got to lump them in because they're not that far apart, right? It's like
right.
Yeah.
You kind of bundle them in there with New Orleans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we got to get the credit to North Shore. Grant, we basically have 3 more minutes left. We'll go about 45 minutes. Individual performances. You talk about Nate Shepard, but like we got to talk about some of the individual performances we're seeing. Nate Shepard, Xavier Ford is like even as good of a year Nate Shepard is having right now. Xavier Ford is leading the state in rushing. So it shows you how really good the running back position is. But Ben Taylor is like, his stats are unbelievable right now. Like, and it's like week in, week out. I mean, Jonathan D'Artez is having a heck of an individual season. He had 7 touchdowns against Riverside. So a lot of really good individual performances we've seen week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, just throughout the season, John D'Artez, of course, has been just an historic player for this Vermilion Catholic team the last 4 years. I mean, he is the heart of Vermilion Catholic, and really, I think he's probably the greatest player in their program's history, just given to what he's done. Ben Taylor, of course, has already reached 100 touchdown mark in his career, and right now he's on pace to break the career touchdown pass record. That's a huge shout out to Ben Taylor and the airline program that's led by Coach Scoggin, who's done a fantastic job with that program in 3 years. And I think they only won like 1 game the year before Scoggin got there as well.
Yeah, they did.
There's a lot of great performance. Okay, Abram Mordell is still doing Abram Mordell things. I mean, there's a lot of big time performances across the state. Not just the place we talk about, but it's all over the state. I mean, we've said this before. There's a huge boom right now in terms of talent across the state, not just because of the amount of players we have right now, but you also got to think about the quarterback position. The quarterback position is taking a huge boom because of 7-on-7, and the development. Got this quarterback schools and camps and 7-on-7 across the state and everything like that. I think that's really helped with the quarterback position across the state. But Jace, I think there's something else we want to talk about. There's some breaking news across the weekend. Now, we didn't get to it earlier. But I know you wanted to talk about that. I know we're kind of short on time.
Right. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, the biggest storyline, I actually heard it from you. It was like right before I was going to the U High game. And that is, speaking of like turning on his head, JFK coming in. They had some big wins. We covered one of them together, and I was against Sam all. And now all their wins but one has been forfeited. So big news, Grant. I mean, obviously you're pretty close to the program. So that really took a big shot, especially how good of a start to the season it was for them. So what's your reaction, and how can JFK respond to the allegations and recruiting and and be able to all those wins being taken underneath them.
Yeah, I mean, this report was actually broken out by Chris Dobb. I actually reposted, and some of that tweet got a lot more traction than the actual tweet I was tweeting about. But what happened was kind of like reading the article. I remember it was so on Friday the LSA listed 3 games that were forfeit losses, which were the wins against Colombo, Warren, East, and Santa Mom. The LSA did not release the reason that Kennedy had to forfeit the games as a private organization. The LSA does not typically provide documentation or issue public statements regarding the rulings. And then Linares Alpage, the head coach, was reached out for additional details. But it could be a lot of different things. It could be because academic issues. It could be because of maybe there's a player from that wasn't cleared to play. He transferred from one school to another and wasn't cleared to play. I mean, there could be a lot of different issues when it comes to eligibility, but it just sent a shockwave. The day of all the games on Friday.
Yeah.
This is a program. Well, I think it was Thursday. No, it was Friday because they were playing.
Yeah, it was Friday.
It was Friday. They won. They didn't break out the game before their win. Yeah. So, but it's pretty shocking because they're the number 3 team in the Power Division 2. So like now they got bumped down because now 3 of those wins are now lost. So they 1-4 right now. And that sucks, right? And I think the players. I think Coach Alpage will have these players ready to go. They still have a district title to win, which is a good thing. That's the thing you look forward to. When you focus on your winning the district title, when you get to the playoffs, you're a very talented team. You've gone on the road and won before. They can do this. I mean, that's not an indictment of who they have on their team. They have a lot of studs on their team, and they're very well coached. They can still make a run for a state championship. However,
still ahead of them. Like this isn't.
Like we've seen teams come from even. We've seen the 12th seed last year in Opelousas. Well, if they were 12th, they maybe lower than that. Yeah. Go to the dome and win. They beat the 1 and the 2 seed. They beat the 4-2. They beat the 4, 1, and 2 seed back to back and 3-week span. It can be done. They have the talent to do that. It's just gonna be a little tougher now, but you're gonna have to be going on the road in the playoffs. But right now, just focus on the goals ahead of you, which is to win a district title, and everything else will play itself out. They can still play football. They're not banned from the playoffs, which is good. Which are both really good things. Coach Linares Alpage will have these boys ready to play. It sucks. Especially sucks for them, given that they've been on kind of a historic run this year, especially being a team like Warren Easton. But things happen, and you gotta move on.
Yeah,
win the district title. Do we gotta do in the Do we gotta do in the playoffs? And that's it. That
for sure.
That's it. I mean, I think that they're still a good team. They got in trouble. They got caught, and it is what it is. But they're still allowed to play football. A lot to go to the playoffs, and I know I'm gonna spend all time on this, but I think I know 14-0 Productions. I know I don't know his name. You might know, but I don't know his name. But we did talk about it through DMs about all the schools in New Orleans have gotten busted throughout the years because it seems like New Orleans is the worst at cheating. Look, we're just horrible cheaters.
Grant. One more thing I want to say before we wrap up. I'm not sure you heard about this story, but this is a very unique story. It involves Parkway. I'm not sure you heard about this or not, but their quarterback was sidelined, and they lost 7 stars because of rule violations. So what they did,
when did this happen?
This was before the Bird game. So guess what they did? They went to the student section. Their quarterback was.
I heard about this. Yeah,
they went to the student section and got a scenario with cross commit. Say, hey, you want to play quarterback? Like, hey, I guess I can do that. I can step up to the ball. And he leads them to a win over Bird.
Yeah. I did hear about that. Yeah. I did see that. Yeah, that's awesome. But that's a great coaching job by Coach Brotherton. They have a huge game against Airline, which me and you will actually talk about on Friday nights on the Bayou. It's probably the biggest game across the state. They're both 5-0. Both these teams are really good. Both have strong, high-powered offenses, so it's gonna be some fun football being played in Shreveport. I'm really excited about this matchup, Jace. I think it might be the first one we talk about off the board.
Yeah, For sure. And you get to check that show, Grant. That's a great transition there. So, yeah, follow Ruru Sports Media as well on the YouTube channel. I go on Grant's show and I talk about the high school games. I go on the show on Friday night, right after all the scores have been released. So make sure to check us out on Friday nights as well. Grant, keep on doing the good work, man. And finally, anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, I'm just just another. I'm just can't wait for week 6. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Chachere Grant, and also follow Ruger Sports Media on at Ruger Media. It's ROUGAROU. It's also linked to my Twitter bio if you want to follow it. So it won't be that hard to find it. But you can also follow us on Instagram and
Facebook. On the ticker as well too.
Exactly. So follow the ticker. But then also make sure to catch up with all the latest from my articles on Crescent City Sports. I always will post it on social media, and then also make sure to look at Crescent City Sports website as well for all the latest on prep football, not only in the New Orleans area where we're based, but also across the state. We also have a school board ready to go, ready to rock and roll every Friday night, where you can get all the updates from across the state. It's a great resource that a lot of people use. If you go and I know Jace, you're an announcer for VSN. A lot of the VSN announcers, when they're trying to look for scores across the state, they actually go to CrescentCitySports.com. They'll look up they get updates across the state by going to the scoreboard. So it's a great resource to use. And yeah, that's basically it, Jace. That's enough promoting for me. But I'm really excited for week 6.
Yeah.
It's not the strongest slate of games in the New Orleans area, but everywhere else, it seems like there's a huge game. I actually was looking at the slate. It doesn't look like it's not as strong as some other weeks, but there's some big time games, man.
Yeah, and these are the type of weeks where the craziness happens. You just saw college football. He said it wasn't a great. It wasn't really a great slate as far as like big time games, but you saw the craziness that happened in college football. So maybe we'll get to see a little bit of that on the high school side. Grant, keep on doing the good work, man, and we'll talk next week on Ballin' In Da Boot.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, Jason. Hopefully, we don't have hurricanes and stuff like that. I know there's a hurricane going towards Florida right now, so all prayers out to everybody in the state of Florida. It sucks that we're still going through hurricane season in October. I really don't remember going this late into hurricane season, so hope everyone's doing all right.
Absolutely. Well said, Grant, and appreciate you guys, and we'll see y'all next time.
Mm-hmm. Peace, y'all.
Hello guys, welcome to another segment of here Ballin' In Da Boot. And of course, every single week we're joined by our friends at Louisiana Prospects and Tony Johnson and Kenneth Lowman. Appreciate y'all guys for coming in each and every week and catching us up. We talk a lot of high school football on the show, but we want to talk about, the next generation. What's coming up? What's the future of Louisiana, right? Yeah. And that's the middle schools, and also we got to give love to flag football as well because, that's another way to start up, not only for the guys, but also for the ladies as well. Get to mention how they're doing too. Got to give them some love as well on the flag football side of things. So each and every week, also Louisiana Prospects, a great flag football organization as well, does a really great job for the youth, and that's a big reason that we've partnered with them. And Tony, I'm gonna start with you. Just anything going on now? Just basically guess the weekly update. What's going on with Louisiana Prospects?
So we just finished our 4th week of the fall season. Everything's going good, on the up and up. Look, the 27th's almost here. It seems like as soon as it starts, just like college football, NFL football, right? As soon as it starts, it's almost over. So we're chugging away. We have the Super Bowl coming up on October 27th. We're going to be playing that at EA High School this season. So thank you, Coach Brock. Excited about that opportunity to play at the Spartan Stadium and playoff Super Bowl action, and working on getting a special guest. Hopefully we can pull that off and surprise.
All right. All right. Yeah.
Also, just our upcoming events. We're planning to do a all-girls camp, free all-girls camp, shall I say, just to promote the game of flag football from the female side. Looking to do that either late October, early November. We'll be sending out some updates soon. So of course, just follow our LA Prospects Flag Football Association Facebook page, just to go get all the updates and what's coming and what's going on with this as usual. So.
Absolutely, Kenneth. Anything you want to add to that?
Oh man, absolutely. I mean, as we continue to expand and add different things to the agenda of things to do, we're always excited to tap into working on with the girls and with the boy athletes and just continuing to grow them. And so as Tony said, we're week 4 of our fall league, and we're going into what I think it's our 3rd or 4th week as well of our girls league as well, and it's been a lot of great growth that we've seen working with that girls league, and the director Ed DiMaggio as well. I mean, Tony, we've all just been getting together and just trying to make sure that we can not only make sure that we're teaching them the proper plays, like in order to make sure that we execute properly on the field, but we also want to, let's take a step back and look at these fundamentals. And once we get these fundamentals down, now we can start picking it up a little bit and start going full speed with plays. And so last week things are really starting to click, and so I think it's really got us fired up to see, all right, where are these girls going to go? What are they going to do? How much are they going to buy in? Because we're bought in, so let's see them buy in and let's see them compete on the field. It's definitely going to be exciting once they get rolling.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned Brock Mathern as well, East Ascension. So give a shout out to Coach Mathern. He actually helped us with one of our elite camps, and he allowed us to host a camp over there too. So he's doing a great job already in his first year at East Ascension, and the team's doing a really good job. Now, guys, you talked a little bit, Tony, about the girls team, the big tournament coming up. So and I believe it's 12. Is it? What's the age group for that?
So we just went on a tournament. We took a group of girls actually last weekend to Dallas for a one-day tournament, a hard count circuit. We partnered with our family in Bunkie, a Vols Parachute League.
Yeah,
they have the Dream League. So me and my buddy Jamel Juno, shout out to him. We and Johnny Martinez took a girls team and went down there and came out victorious.
Okay.
We won the championship last Sunday in Dallas, Texas. We had a good group of girls. We brought 3 girls from our organization, and he had 4 girls from his league, and we put it together, man. And it was some good athleticism and some tough tenacity going on, man. A good group of girls and excited
on the fly
for them.
That.
Yeah, we didn't have any practice. Not to toot our horn, but no, we didn't get a chance to practice. We had a meeting in the hotel Saturday night, just kind of go over some concepts and things we wanted to do, and they gelled, man. It was awesome to see them come together and compete, not against just anybody. These are some teams we'll see next month at the New Orleans Regional, at least one of them for sure. So it was good to see them compete against that type of talent, because that's what we'll compete against next month. And without practice, now we got 3 weeks to get it together, get some work in. So excited about what we'll be able to see come October 26th.
Yeah. Any more teams y'all looking for? Or just anything y'all looking for this tournament coming up? Specifically, if there's any number of teams or anything like that.
I'm hoping we're going to see. I'm hoping we see a good number. We the past 2 years we've seen a good bit of teams come from the Texas area. That's where your bulk of teams come from, Texas, Florida, and both of those are in our region. So.
It's always exciting to see how the regional tournaments pan out, right? Because like each NFL franchise has their regional tournament, right? So it's like, all right, we got ours, right? New Orleans, October 26th.
Let us have ours, yeah.
Let us have ours, with our Louisiana teams.
Yeah.
But hey, sometimes you have a Texas, they'll come over, or Florida might scoot in there. But also on the flip side, let's say we're not victorious in our regional, right?
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to go to Houston,
right,
which is always usually the last regional to qualify for national. So this is always exciting, the weeks leading up to the tournament, to kind of see who's coming to play, what competition, what organization that we know, well on the circuit is coming to play.
It's always a business move, so New Orleans is the first regional on the list. So it's the first one of the year. And so, especially being in the South region, if you're a team from Texas, and you go to the New Orleans regional, that you still have, 3-4 more regionals you could go to after that. So if you don't come out victorious, you still got 3-4 more to go.
Okay.
Plus 2 in your home. So there's 2 in Texas this year.
Okay.
So if you really want to make the drive over here and still have 2 back home, you could. You win, you're done. Once you win, you don't have to play in those anymore. So
okay.
See how it goes, but I think there's last time they checked about 2 or 3 teams right now. So
Okay.
in the 12U boys division. So I think last year they had about 40 teams across all the divisions. So we're gonna see how it goes.
Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break. Real quick.
Yeah.
Quick pause. Stop recording here. And guys, you just mentioned NFL flag regionals are coming up October 26th, so that's the one in New Orleans, correct?
Correct.
And coming up as well. So explain to everybody, I guess, like what's the deadline for teams to enroll for like bracket play for regional play, and how many regionals there are, and like what's basically the deadline, the last date before going to that next step.
Absolutely. So for the New Orleans regional, the deadline is October 11th, I believe the date is. That'll be the deadline to register. And so the way the registration and the whole regional process works is when you register for the regional, you're automatically inputted for your 3 pool play games. So everybody gets 3 pool play games. They get to see how many points you can put up, what record you can come out with out of those 3 games, and that's all that is from there. From there, we look at the standings, and they're going to take that top 50% of those standings. So if you only have 8 teams, they're going to take the top 4 teams. If you got 6 teams, they'll take the top 3 teams. Just basic math there. But they'll take those top 50% teams, and all those teams, those top teams that are left, they're going to play each other in a bracket. And then that only one team remaining from that bracket is going to be the one that represents that division in that club. So luckily for us, we have about 5 to 6 regionals within our southwest region, with the last one being in Texas on the 14th. NFL Flag does host what's called a super regional, and I believe they'll do that. That one's on the 9th in Dallas.
That'll be the summit. Summit.
And so what a super regional is anybody, any club from any across the United States can go to that one. So it's not bordered off.
Okay.
But other than that, everybody's restricted to their region.
Okay, so you have to win basically these regionals, right? You have to win this regional to advance to the next.
To go to Canton for ESPN and to go out for there. Yep. So it gets cutthroat, it gets tight, but we think that this year 3 of us, going to it first year was the whole just like, oh, okay, let's understand what this is. Second year, it's like, okay, we understand what it is. Now we just got beat. Third year, it's like, all right, we understand, we got beat. Now let's go in and let's go win. So I think we got the mindset, and we got we're getting the right boys and the right kids together to go do that.
Yep. And then Tony, we're getting hot and heavy with it halfway through the fall with the rec season. Like I mentioned, very balanced, competitive. It's been a really fun season. To just give us an update how tough it's really been so far, as we kind of like at the halfway point, like we were with the pads. We're still at the halfway point as well with the flags.
It's been good. This past Wednesday night, some tight, close, competitive games. And this is one of our smaller seasons, not a large one like we normally have. So it's been good, and just to see, even from a small scale, like just all the talent that's within our parish and just surrounding areas. But it's been some good games, some close games. Look, some teams that just didn't come to play, but hey, you see the potential. And I remember saying, usually about the 6th week of between the 4th and 6th week of the season is usually when you see the most progression and teams hitting their strides and starting to gel and get that chemistry together.
Right.
Which has prompted us to we'll make this announcement later, but it's prompted us to do something different with our leagues and the amount of games starting in 2025, which will make for, better league and more, competitive playoffs. So, but it's been a good season. We had we had to tackle some parking. We had a lot of parents want to double park.
Oh yeah, that happens everywhere.
Things. So, but hey, we got it under control now. So, other than that, man, it's a good season. New people and some of our existing families. So it's been going good.
Yeah, even the parking's competitive.
Hey, we gotta get that on the T-shirt, on the hat. We gotta get that everywhere. That's it.
This past Wednesday was good though. We had parents and some of the grandparents just said, hey, It's a lot better this week. Thank y'all.
LA Prospects at Carver, where the games and parking is
There you go. There you go. Perfect.
Look, yeah, one thing about LA Prospects, look, if there's an issue, we just calmly provide a solution.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it as well. And then, Kenneth, any last-minute thoughts on the flag side before we make the transition to middle school?
Just like Tony said, I mean, we all have loved this fall season, man. It's just been good to go. We always say, yeah, we're going back to the roots. It is because we're going back to that smaller size, and it's that more intimate setting, and it allows us to be able to keep an eye on those teams that maybe aren't performing to the level that they could be. And that's where, Tony, myself, and, the rest of our staff can step in. We can go on a practice and be like, hey, we noticed these are a few things that are lacking. Let us step in for practice today and, kind of work with y'all. And let's see if we can, see that next step. And then being able to watch that translate onto the field the next week. These smaller leagues, and it really lets us do that. It keeps it more competitive because a lot of those kids that may play tackle and they exceed that talent level that we usually see in the league, they're not playing, so it lets those other kids step up and really start to build that confidence as well. We've seen a lot of kids start to build their confidence and start to get more game action, and so I've really enjoyed this fall league. It's been awesome.
And we're going to make the transition to middle school football, which y'all been hot and heavy on as well the last couple of weeks. And I know y'all recapped the Galvez football team that's looking really good right now. Yeah. And y'all saw them in person. Now we're going to talk about the last game that y'all covered, and it was between Prairieville Middle and Bluff Middle. And guys, I guess Tony, you want to tell us about some of the talent and just give us a recap of how that game went.
So we had Bluff, of course, and Coach Chris Childress. We had a chance to talk with him, and thing about his Bluff middle team is that another young team, right? They're still learning and growing, right? Mm-hmm. And we had the Prairieville team, good athletes. Both teams had good athletes, but they were, their coach, Coach Stutzman. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Coach Stutzman. Look, he's another strong run team, and kind of like Lake. We're pounding it, right?
Right. No question. There's no question.
He's running at you. There were a few fourth down calls that they decided to run the ball. They had some gutsy calls, but they made it through. But overall, good game. But I'm gonna tell you, man, based on what Coach Chris said about Bluff, them being young and still learning, they competed to the end with a very talented and pretty deep Prairieville Middle team.
Yeah, and it was starting a new quarterback.
Yeah, it was a 6-0 game at halftime. Bluff was 6-0 at halftime, and it was a lot of 3-and-out. Beginning a lot of penalties in the beginning.
Yeah, a little sloppy. Yeah,
a little sloppy football. But like I said, Bluff was holding their own. I mean, D line was turning it up a notch there. Yes. Part of that game, but momentum kind of switched there. Let's say about the fourth quarter with that 4:14 remaining. There was Bluff had a muff punt, and that gave him a touchdown there real quick.
Yeah.
So made it 6-6. All right. They go another. Bluff gets the ball again, of course. Bluff gets the ball again, and they go a 3-and-out, and Prairieville's able to get it, and it's this fourth quarter, 4:14. I can't say what this call means, but I heard an Aztec call.
All right.
Yep. Coach, that's what I'm not saying.
Make sure not to close it too much,
To say after the call, it's a first down.
They go Aztec. Things happen. They get a first down. And look, it was a 4th and 7 they were going for, and they got the first based on that call. But look, they go in at 2:40. They finally punch it in. It makes it 12-6.
Okay.
And then the quarterback
Caleb Corner.
Yeah, Caleb Corner. Oh man, this dude. That's the quarterback, Caleb Corner.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, was he a linebacker or a quarterback?
Dude, wow. Gutsy runner.
Yeah.
Okay. Not going to slide, right?
Yeah. No. They had a lot of good athletes on the field, but like I said, hey, somebody has to stand out, right? But he took control of that game and led his team and dominated. Like, he took over, brought the energy, made the big plays when needed. Look, he maybe ran over a few guys on a couple series there.
Okay.
He definitely lowered that shoulder.
Yeah, not scared to lower it.
Oh yeah.
So, but he definitely carried that team to the end. But they also had good defensive play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, they gave up that one in the beginning, but look, they got some guys that can really go. Let's see, Gavin. I'm sorry, not Gavin. Excuse me. Mr. Cortez Christie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's a linebacker for me. Mr. Jackson Arnold, which was number 0.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Those guys played like inside linebackers. Those guys played lights out for them.
Big players for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach has some very big key players for them. They definitely make a lot of plays and rely on them to take over on that defense and just kind of be leaders for that defense. So they definitely did their job there.
But those same guys, I mean, they play both ways, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We had Cortez.
Happens a lot of times.
Yeah, we had Cortez and back on, he did good on offense as well. He had this kid, this fullback, running back guy, Mikey Pickett.
Okay.
Number 44. He's a bruiser.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He ain't scared of contact.
Yeah.
But he had some good runs, some good solid blocks for him, and just made some plays for him. And they also had Kelly LeDuff, good little athlete, made some plays for him as well.
Yeah.
But not to count Bluff out. Look, like Coach said, young team. But they had a quarterback for Bluff.
Cooper
Alvarez.
Mm-hmm.
He's played with us before, by the way. But he stepped in first week playing quarterback.
Okay.
And he did pretty good for his first week.
Yeah.
Once he shook those nerves off first drive, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did a good job. And they also have a athlete named Jace. He was number 10.
Yeah, that's a good name. Yeah. That's a good name.
Yeah.
Representing the Jaces out there.
Yeah, Mr. Jace Smith.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Jace Smith.
There you go, Jace. I see you.
Yeah,
Do your
Jace
thing.
He did a great job for him. And also another guy that stood out to us was a D. He played O-line and D-line, number 61, Mr. DJ. Didn't get his last name, but he was part of that motor on the D-line that got Bluff going and built some momentum and carried them into halftime with that 6-0 lead. So,
Okay.
But like I say, they didn't come out victorious, but their young team's still working, and look, they may look to do some good things towards the end of the season there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they had a chance to. I mean, they had the lead, in Prairieville. It was a tough game, and like you said, Prairieville's a tough team, and they got a lot of tough players, so that was a big win for them. And with the high school really starting up too, Prairieville High School. This is the feeder program. They got the middle school. This is huge for just the future of the program, the growth of this program. So we talk about the future of the Hurricanes. That's right there. I mean, it's right there.
It's so relevant, when you talk to the, coaches or small talk, and they're at these games, man. These, these games at Prairieville High. Those coaches, kudos to them, for being out, watching these young athletes, being present, putting the face with name and getting to know these guys. But that is the honest truth, hey, they're building this program based on the current 7th and 8th graders. And that 5-year plan,
Right.
So,
and really kudos goes out to a lot of these middle school coaches, because a lot of times it's not like in high school where you have a job at the school, you're a coach or a teacher at the school. A lot of times these middle school coaches are parents or just volunteers and just pitching in to help out, which is definitely one of the purest forms of football by far.
Like I tell my players, that age out of our program, or just I get that opportunity to talk to the athletes, is look, man, it's fun, love, and just a different type of love from youth to middle school,
right?
Youth to high school,
right.
Once you get to college, it's a little different.
Yeah, it's become a business almost, and what's in college.
You don't know if your coach is going to be on salary.
Yeah, right.
Next season, so
yeah.
I went through 4 different coaches while I was at Southeast. DB coach, so new system every year, man. That was
rough.
So,
but a good start, and hopefully we'll try to get some more footage. We failed to do that last week, but we definitely will try to play some more footage for y'all, so that way we can capture what Tony and Kenneth are capturing at the middle school games as well, and then they're doing some interviews and stuff.
Shout out to Coach Chris and Bluff Middle for playing a good game, and hey, shout out to Coach Desmond and his staff, for just their coaching style and just their players and their heart and tenacity to battle back. And,
Great coaching staff, man.
Yeah, they have good coaching staff and just a good team. So
Congratulations to Prairieville on to win the Louisiana Prospects Game of the Week for middle school. So
and that's the quarterback.
Yep,
Caleb Corner.
Yeah, Caleb Corner, Player of the Week for y'all. So Louisiana Prospects quarterback Player of the Week. So we have a quarterback win the Player of the Week for Louisiana Prospects. We have Jerry Botley from Southern Lab, a quarterback win Player of the Week. So I mean, nothing's really changed, right? The proper position, of course, is going to get the Player of the Week votes. So anything on the agenda coming up for the middle school side for y'all this week?
You're talking about quarterbacks, so we really want a defense.
We do.
Okay, y'all been waiting.
We almost had one.
Because the last 2 weeks have been quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
So
we got week one, two quarterbacks.
Right.
But this week we'll go check out the Dutchtown and Galvez game.
Let's see Galvez again. All right. Yeah, big
both
game.
Both undefeated teams, and look, this game will kind of decide, the season for these teams.
Yes.
What that looks like towards the end for parish champs.
Right.
You got Coach Ponder. Good team at Dutchtown and Coach Benny Babin. Good team at Galvez, good athletes.
Both with strong leaders. You got two strong defensive units, strong weapons on defense, but also two teams with strong offensive players on both sides. I mean, you got Dutchtown, you got Avon Jarrow, and you got Mr. Alec Bush, and then you got Galvez, you got
Malik Schofield.
Yeah, Malik Schofield, Mr. Donald Jones. So you got these offensive powerhouses on both sides of the ball, but these guys are playing both ways, and they can make plays on both sides. So definitely
comes down to who wants it.
That's it.
That's what it does. That's what it takes. Who wants it? And it'll be huge. It'll be a huge game, biggest middle school game y'all been to at this point in the season. So we'll probably try to even get some highlights for you and put them on your YouTube channel, and that way Louisiana Prospects gets some coverage as well of the games they've been going to. But guys, I know that was going to pretty much wrap it up for us. Any final thoughts about flag football, Louisiana Prospects, middle school football? Tony and Kenneth, of course, are joining with us each and every week. I guess, Kenneth, you want to start off? Any final thoughts for today's show, or just this point in the season, anything you want to say?
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been enjoying getting out there. We're excited, as we finish up, wrapping in Central Parish as well, just expanding out and starting to check out our Baton Rouge schools, and then going even a little further. So we're excited to see who else we can highlight and how we can bring that all together. It's just all to gear things up for this junior high bowl coming up at the the end of the year, and get these kids these exposure and these opportunities to be interviewed and work on that camera presence and talking. So it's definitely been a great experience for us and for them as well. So
absolutely.
I just want to just thank the coaches thus far in the Central Parish, all the middle schools, just being welcoming and supportive of the LA Prospects and Gridiron Football. Coming to cover these games and being able to get them some coverage and let them talk about their teams and strategies and how everything's going and the players. Just like you said, Ken, giving them exposure and everything. And we look forward to continuing and definitely want to branch out also, get the Baton Rouge in some other areas. So. But also, hey, thank you, Gridiron, Jace, Andy, for giving us this opportunity to partner with you guys and be able to do this. So
absolutely. Guys, make sure to follow Louisiana Prospects on Facebook. You can follow them at LA Prospects Flag Football Association. You can find them on Facebook. So make sure to follow them, like their page, and make sure to keep up what's going on with them throughout the year, especially during the flag football season, obviously. So thank y'all guys for coming on once again. Another show in the books, another week down, and next week we'll get to recap that big middle school game between Galvez and Dutchtown and give your reactions to that. Guys, make sure to check us out next week on another great edition of Ballin' In Da Boot. All right.